Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 1 of What If Naruto Got a System. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Early that morning, Naruto felt his eye twitch as he glared up at the rows of students watching him from the safety of their seats. He knew he had only himself to blame for ending up like this. Well, him and Iruka Yumino's nosiness. Iruka was currently giving him a lecture in the only way he knew how, by tying him up and dragging him halfway across the village to sit in the middle of the classroom floor as a warning to everyone else. The message was crystal clear: mess with the village's monuments and you'd pay dearly. The latest stunt Naruto was in trouble for was painting the faces of the Hokage monument in vibrant white, red, and blue, a spectacle for the world to see. Even now, he could hear the echoes of shock and admiration from the crowd outside. The cries of dismay and outrage from those who saw their beloved mountain altered filled the air, reaching into the classroom and fueling a mix of reactions. Despite the situation, a small smile tugged at Naruto's lips. The praise from some fans felt good, but the displeasure of getting caught by Iruka soured the triumph. It had to be karma, he thought bitterly. The room was filled with the sounds of impatient tapping. Naruto glanced to his left and up, meeting Iruka's intense gaze. Iruka's brown hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and his hands were balled into fists on his hips. The deep scowl on Iruka's face was enough to clue Naruto in on the kind of trouble he was in. Iruka looked ready to make him regret his actions, thoroughly. Naruto gave him a sheepish grin. He slowly turned back to face his classmates. Some glared at him disapprovingly. Others grinned, amused by his antics. A few, the ones who always seemed to have a cloud over their heads, didn't seem to care one way or another. Most of these observations, though, were just Naruto's own interpretations, as he tried to brush off the varied stares and the particularly sharp glare from Iruka. Okay. In my defense, I think Hokage Gigi looks way better with a nosebleed, Naruto blurted out. A burst of laughter erupted from the boys in the stands who appreciated the joke. This is no time for jokes. Iruka's shout reverberated through the classroom, cutting off the laughter like a sharp knife. Every student, Naruto included, jumped in their seats. The sheer volume of Iruka's voice made him cringe. It echoed painfully inside his head. We all know exactly what you did, you little smart-assed brat. Iruka continued, his words stinging more than Naruto cared to admit. Naruto rubbed his ears, trying to shake off the ringing. I gave the past Hokages a makeover, big deal. That's nothing to get angry about. It's not like I poured a whole bottle of laxatives into your coffee this morning, sensei. As the ringing subsided, he couldn't help but let a proud grin spread across his face. The thrill of the chase that morning had been real fun. Irrelevant. Iruka's voice boomed so loudly it seemed his head might explode. Naruto was sitting so close that the force of the shout actually blew his hair to the side. He tried to smooth it down. This is the 8th time this year you've done this. You skipped the early morning lectures and practice tests to pull another one of your stupid pranks. That was valuable time you could have spent studying for the final exams coming up in a month or so, and you failed it thrice. What do these little escapades of yours teach you that the academy doesn't? His eyes were ablaze with frustration, and for a moment, Naruto felt a pang in his chest. I knew I was letting him down, but I couldn't seem to help myself. That the Chunin chasing after me are second-rate chumps. Naruto shot back, but Iruka was having none of it. Nothing. That's what. Iruka screamed, the words echoing in Naruto's head. He watched as Iruka caught himself, his anger simmering as he rubbed the bridge of his nose, his gaze fixed on Naruto with a mix of exasperation and disappointment. That look always made Naruto squirm. It reminded him too much of the disdain and dismissal he felt from everyone else in the village. But Iruka cared, maybe too much, and that made it hurt all the more. Why can't you appreciate the time I'm using to teach you the stuff you need to know to become a shinobi, Naruto? Isn't that your dream? His voice softened, but the intensity in his eyes didn't wane. Yup. Naruto responded, a bit too quickly. My dream is to be Hokage, Datbeo. He declared with as much conviction as he could muster. Sitting there, tied up in the middle of the classroom, Naruto felt the weight of his words more heavily than ever. I wanted to be Hokage, to be someone important, someone respected. But here he was, the class clown, the troublemaker, always on the wrong side of every lecture. He wanted Iruka to understand, to see that his antics weren't just about seeking attention or stirring up trouble. But how could I explain that the laughs and the shouts, even the scoldings, were better than being invisible? How could I make him see that every prank pulled me a little further from the loneliness that gnawed at me every night? Exhibit A. The apple Naruto crammed full of worms and gave to Mizuki, along with several other unfortunate teachers. Exhibit B. The stink bombs he simultaneously detonated inside every single classroom. Exhibit C. Slipping factory adhesive glue into everybody's sandals during dojo practice. Oh yeah, that one was great. Naruto couldn't help but laugh out loud, reminiscing about the chaos of that day. The dojo had turned into a slapstick comedy scene, everyone stuck in place, their sandals glued firmly to the floor. To him, it was a riot, at least in his eyes. However, his laughter quickly faded as he sensed a wave of glares and what felt like killing intent from the students in the stands behind him. Their displeasure was palpable, and it prickled at the back of his neck. He tried to shrug it off, but the weight of their disapproval was heavy. Exhibit D. Rigging the dividers in the hot spring between the boys' and girls' sides to collapse randomly during the day. Actually, props to that one, Naruto, nice going. Oh, and Exhibit E. Replacing all the canned drinks in the academy cafeteria with urine samples swiped from the hospital, Iruka continued, his voice heavy with resignation as he dropped the last document on the desk with a groan and slammed the drawer shut. That's not even the worst part. How was that not the worst part? A random student called out, his voice tinged with distress, likely haunted by the memory of the drink swap prank. All of those so-called accomplishments could fill up my file 3 times over. Iruka marched over to Naruto, crossing his arms and fixing him with a glare that tried to bore straight through him. Despite the anger emanating from Iruka, Naruto couldn't help but feel a strange mix of pride and guilt as his pranks were recounted. They were meant to be funny, to lighten up the dull days, to make him stand out. But seeing Iruka so upset, he felt a twinge of regret. To summarize your academy record for you, in brief, you're a terrible student, Iruka concluded, his disappointment palpable. Naruto instantly dropped his clueless expression and grinned. Thanks. That wasn't a compliment, idiot, Iruka snapped back, pulling a kunai from his holster and slicing through the rope that bound Naruto. Naruto stretched out, relieved to be free from the physical restraints, yet the emotional ones tightened around his heart. Watching Naruto flex feeling back into his limbs and midsection, Iruka held his hand out expectantly. Don't think you're being let off so easily today, Naruto. You still need to face punishment for your actions. Empty your pockets. As Iruka's impatience visibly grew, Naruto knew he couldn't stall any longer. With a heavy sigh, Naruto reached into his jacket pockets and reluctantly pulled out the items he had stashed for today's pranks. Handing them over, he watched Iruka's expression shift from suspicion to curiosity as he held up one of the 3 eggs Naruto had surrendered. Iruka inspected the egg, holding it up to his eye level with a raised eyebrow. Naruto knew what he was thinking. I wasn't the type to carry around ordinary eggs. Backups. Naruto muttered, trying to sound nonchalant as he watched Iruka scrutinize the other 2 eggs in his lower hand. Backups. Iruka echoed, sniffing the egg he held, probably checking if it was expired. As Iruka was distracted, Naruto quickly lowered his goggles over his eyes. He barely suppressed a grin. What do you mean back? Splat. The egg exploded right in front of Iruka's face, and the other 2 burst against his chest, splattering yellow goop all over him. The sight of Iruka, covered in chicken mix and standing there in total bewilderment, was too much. Naruto doubled over with laughter, and soon, the whole class joined in. Despite catching some of the splashback, it was absolutely worth it to see Iruka's stunned expression turn into one of slow-burning fury. He brushed the yolk off his trousers and face with quick, disgusted swipes, the heat from his anger practically cooking what remained of the egg on his skin. Calming down from his fit of giggles, Naruto couldn't help but grin up at Iruka triumphantly. How'd y'all like that, Iruka-sensei? Cool, huh? Naruto boasted, pulling out another rigged egg from his pocket and waving it like a trophy. The hard part was getting the ignition powder into the egg, but it all worked out in the end. Approximately a few minutes later, Naruto stood by the door, the weight of a bucket in each hand and an egg precariously perched atop his head. He felt the muscles in his arms begin to burn. The water in the buckets threatened to spill at the slightest tremor, demanding all his focus to keep them balanced. His expression was fixed in an annoyed glare, and his body stayed rooted in place, unable to escape the ever-growing weight or the mounting discomfort. As Iruka resumed his lectures, the smell of egg wafted off his clothes. Despite the spectacle, Iruka carried on. He mentioned something about shopping for new clothes after class, but his voice became just another background hum as Naruto concentrated on not dropping the egg or spilling the water. The hours dragged on. Iruka's voice melded into the sounds of scribbling and pages turning, and Naruto felt a dull ache in his arms and neck. Each minute felt like an hour as he stood there, part of the room yet apart from everyone else. Occasionally, Naruto shifted his gaze to the blackboard, attempting to absorb the information Iruka had written. The academic material was as dry as the desert to him, and after several reads, even the words started to blur together. He had been through this punishment before. It was a familiar dance: mischief in the morning, suffer in silence during class. On days when he wasn't in trouble, he'd either catch up on sleep or grudgingly scratch out answers to the assignments, doing the bare minimum to scrape by. Lunchtime couldn't come soon enough, but even as the bell finally rang, Naruto's ordeal wasn't over. He remained at his post by the door, a statue of endurance as the rest of the students began to leave. Some avoided eye contact, embarrassed or indifferent, while others smirked or snickered as they passed. Kiba, never one to miss an opportunity to dig in, threw his usual taunt as he walked by with Akamaru perched on his head. Nice going, dead last. Bite me, dog chow, Naruto shot back, their glares clashing for a moment before Kiba moved on. Each comment, each mocking grin, felt like another weight added to the buckets. Yet, beneath the surface bravado and the sharp exchanges, there was a weariness in Naruto. He knew he was the class clown, the troublemaker, the dead last. But these labels, as much as they were a part of him, also felt like chains. Within minutes, the classroom emptied out, leaving him alone under the watchful gaze of Iruka-sensei. As usual, following the pattern of punishments for his antics both inside and outside of the academy, Iruka assigned him to classroom cleanup. Naruto swept the floors, emptied the bins, cleaned the chalkboard, and wiped down the windows and desks. After Iruka had gathered his things together for his break, he dragged Naruto up to the Hokage monument to clean up the mess he had made there. It was a long and grueling process. Early afternoon found Iruka sitting atop the fourth Hokage's stone head, which offered him a clear view of the ninja academy below. As the bell rang, marking the end of the school day, Naruto, still at the base of the monument, could see the students and teachers streaming out of the building, their long shadows merging with the hues of the setting sun. Part of Naruto felt relieved that the day was drawing to a close, but another part was dismayed. His tasks were far from over. He had been scrubbing the paint off the Hokage faces since the second period, and despite his continuous groaning and complaining under Iruka's watchful eyes, he had made noticeable progress. Bit by bit, the paint peeled away, unveiling the stoic expressions of the village's revered leaders. Iruka's voice cut through the air. "I won't let you go home until everything is as it should be," Iruka declared, arms folded across his chest. "I expect this cliffside to be spotless. Like I care. It's not like I have anyone to go home to." Naruto shot back sharply, his words heavier than the rag he resumed scrubbing with. From above, Iruka flinched at Naruto's words. In his focus on discipline, he had momentarily forgotten the reality of Naruto's solitary home life. The boy had no family waiting for him, no cheerful house to return to after a long day. Instead, he lived alone in a sparse apartment, a fact Iruka knew well but had briefly overlooked amid the day's chaos. Feeling a pang of guilt, Iruka's demeanor softened. He recalled the briefing from Hiruzen when he first took Naruto as a student. The boy had been on his own for as long as he could manage, his upbringing more influenced by the streets of Konoha than any guardian or mentor. Reflecting on the day's events and the punishments meted out, Iruka realized he might have been too harsh. Although Naruto's pranks were mostly harmless, there were exceptions, like the incident with the rogue wasp nest that still unsettled him. Deciding it was time to amend the day's severity, Iruka called out gently, "Naruto." Naruto looked up, skepticism plain on his face, likely expecting another reprimand. However, Iruka managed a small smile, choosing his next words carefully to avoid adding to the boy's burdens. "When you're done and everything is cleared up over here, I'll take you out for ramen tonight," he offered. "I'll buy." The change in Naruto's demeanor was immediate. His face brightened, a genuine smile breaking through the earlier frustration as he returned to his scrubbing with renewed vigor and enthusiasm. "Okay. I'll work a lot harder." From above, Iruka chuckled softly to himself. "Good to see there's always a spark inside of him, infinitely burning," he mused to himself, shaking his head in amusement. Even though that spark often leads to a raging fire of mischief and practical jokes. He's still a good kid. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow of oranges and purples over Konoha, Naruto strolled through the bustling streets alongside Iruka-sensei. The lively chatter of villagers filled the air, weaving a vibrant tapestry typical of an evening in the Leaf Village. With a bloated belly and a content smile, Naruto rubbed his stomach appreciatively. "As I always say, ramen is the food of the gods," he proclaimed proudly, his voice carrying slightly over the din of the busy street. "You have never once said that," Iruka countered. "Oh, right," Naruto responded, a sheepish grin spreading across his face. He looked up at Iruka with a spark of joy in his eyes. "Well, when I am Hokage, I'll make that the official saying of Konoha." Iruka opened his mouth to reply, then closed it, shaking his head slightly. He was too tired to point out that there wasn't such a thing as the official saying of Konoha. At least try to focus on school. "I will." They continued walking, surrounded by the lively energy of Konoha's nightlife. Suddenly, Naruto's foot collided with something. "Ouch!" he yelped, stumbling slightly. Annoyance flickered across his face as he turned to confront the obstacle. "Hey, what's the big idea?" he began, but his voice trailed off as he noticed what he had hit. Under the dim glow of the streetlights, Naruto's attention was entirely captivated by a cube-shaped object in front of him. Intricate patterns and designs, a mix of geometric circles and angular shapes, were etched into its surface. The dark background of the cube contrasted sharply with the lighter, possibly metallic color of the designs, giving it the appearance of an ornate, decorative puzzle box. "Cool," Naruto murmured, his eyes sparkling with interest as he turned towards the seller. The seller, a beggar shrouded in a cloak, appeared worn and weathered by time. His cloak, frayed at the edges, seemed to blend into the shadows of the evening. "Hey, dirty old man, how much for the box?" "You can have it," replied the beggar in a raspy voice. "What?" Naruto's excitement was evident in his tone, but he paused, eyeing the beggar with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Look, dirty old man, I can pay for it. Just tell me the price." "No price. I was just trying to rid of it." "Try not to solve it," the beggar warned, his tone grave. "What's better than cool stuff? Free cool stuff. Hey, Iruka-sensei, look at this cool box I got," Naruto shouted. Iruka, looking weary, turned towards him and raised an eyebrow. "Look, Naruto, it's late at night, I'm tired, and I don't want to deal with your pranks right now." Taken aback by Iruka's words, Naruto insisted, "Come on, Iruka-sensei, you can't tell me this isn't a cool box." Iruka sighed heavily. "Naruto, there is nothing in your hand." Naruto blinked in confusion and looked at his hand. The box was there one moment, then he looked at Iruka, and then back at the box, flicking it and feeling its vibration. Maybe Iruka-sensei is just pranking me as revenge. HMPH, Iruka-sensei, you have to do better than that if you want to prank me, Naruto said, a hint of defiance in his voice. He glanced back at where the old beggar had been, only to find no one there. Scratching his head, Naruto muttered, "Weird," as he carefully placed the mysterious box into his pocket. At night found Naruto sitting cross-legged on his bed, clutching a puzzling cube firmly in his hands. His bedroom was bathed in a soft glow from the moonlight sneaking through the window. His brows knitted together in concentration as he struggled to unravel the secrets locked within the intricate designs of the cube. Why is this so hard? He muttered, frustration edging into his voice. He set the cube down, his eyes darting toward the inviting softness of his pillow, considering sleep. But restlessness quickly overtook that fleeting thought. No, what kind of Hokage would he be if he backed down from a challenge? As the clock ticked steadily towards midnight, Naruto resumed his efforts, his eyes growing red and tired from the strain. He remained fixated on the cube, turning it this way and that, each twist filled with hope for some magical transformation or revelation. Yet, the puzzle remained stubbornly unsolved. Then, just as he was about to complete the last twist of the puzzle, he paused. He could see that finishing it would make all the once ornate and intriguing shapes joined together into a disappointingly blank cover. The intricate designs that had so thoroughly captivated him would vanish, leaving behind something utterly ordinary and unremarkable. He pursed his lips in dismay, withdrawing his hand. I ain't finishing it and making it lame. In a fit of disappointment, he slammed the now bland cube onto the desk beside his bed. The sound echoed slightly in the quiet of his room. Turning his back on the puzzle, he settled into his bed, his mind still spinning with thoughts of the cube's initial allure and its anticlimactic resolution. As Naruto drifted into a deep sleep, the room was bathed in silence, broken only by his soft, rhythmic breathing. However, this tranquility was soon interrupted by an unexpected occurrence. The cube began to emit a faint glow. Its light, subtle at first, gradually intensified, filling the room with a soft, otherworldly luminescence. Almost as if possessing a will of its own, the cube started to levitate, gently rising from the desk. It floated through the air, guided by an unseen force, moving steadily towards Naruto's resting form. The glowing cube hovered above him, casting a warm light on his peaceful face. Then the cube began to merge into Naruto's chest. It moved slowly, seamlessly integrating with him, as if it were being absorbed by his very being. The light from the cube enveloped Naruto in a gentle embrace, and then, just as quietly as it had begun, the cube disappeared entirely into him. Oblivious to the supernatural happenings, Naruto continued to sleep soundly. Standing amidst towering trees in an unfamiliar forest, with leaves whispering secrets on the gentle breeze, Naruto felt a surreal sense of displacement. Is this a dream? He wondered aloud, pinching himself, half expecting to snap back to reality. Yet there he remained, enveloped in this inexplicable scene. As if answering his bewildered query, a path illuminated before him, cutting through the dense foliage with a soft, inviting glow. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, he followed the path without hesitation. It wound through landscapes that shifted dramatically, a scorching desert, a serene snow-covered field, a tranquil lake, and a murky swamp. Each environment transitioned seamlessly into the next, as if nature itself orchestrated this mysterious journey. Emerging from the swamp, Naruto stepped into a clearing where reality twisted in impossible ways. Water flowed upward into the sky, birds growled like dogs, and cats and dogs literally rained from above. Above, the sky morphed into a surreal canvas of melting, contorting clocks. It was a scene that defied all logic, a vivid hallucination, or so it seemed. At the center of this bizarre world stood an altar, atop which rested a cube, similar yet distinctly different from the one he had at home. As he approached, a voice echoed in his mind. Do you want to play a game? Excitement surged through him. Then finish the cube. Naruto reached out, his hands steady as he manipulated the familiar object. With a confident twist, he completed the puzzle. Activation sequence recorded. System will begin merger. You talk like a pompous Tem. Suddenly, the cube erupted into a brilliant, blinding light. He shielded his eyes, momentarily overwhelmed by the intensity. When the light subsided, Naruto found himself adrift in an endless cosmic sea, surrounded by a breathtaking tapestry of stars and planets. He floated there, feeling both insignificant and profoundly awestruck by the vastness surrounding him. Looking up, he saw it, an entity like no other. Before him, a cosmic entity made of multiple human hands, glowing with a golden luminescence, moved and danced against the backdrop of stars, planets, and galaxies. The hands and fingers, adorned with sparkling jewels, orchestrated a celestial ballet. Are you the sage of six paths? Naruto asked, his voice echoing through the vast expanse, feeling small yet connected to something infinitely larger than himself. System has recognized the player. Naruto Uzumaki. System merger has commenced. Naruto couldn't grasp what was happening. The words were foreign, yet they resonated within him. He closed his eyes, trying to make sense of it all. The entity transformed into a stream of liquid gold, flowing toward him and merging with his being. He felt the progression as if time itself were announcing it. 1%, 20%, 50%, 80%, 100%. Congratulations. Naruto Uzumaki, you have been selected as a player. Memories of system domain have been sealed. Reverting Naruto Uzumaki to level 1. You have slept in your bed. HP and CP are fully stored. Begrudgingly, Naruto rose from his bed, his movements sluggish and mind foggy from the events of the previous night. The morning light streamed through his window, casting a warm glow across his room, yet it did little to clear the haze in his head. He rubbed his eyes, trying to piece together the fragments of his memory, but found he couldn't remember a single thing from the night before. With a wave of his hand, he dismissed the gold-colored box that had been conjured in his sleep-addled state, a futile attempt to rouse him from his slumber. His feet met the frigid embrace of the hardwood floor, a stark reminder of his landlord's callousness in shutting off the heat once again. Ignoring the hovering green boxes above his potted plants, Naruto stretched his arms above his head, stifling a yawn as he surveyed his bleak surroundings. His meager assortment of belongings, including a few potted plants, offered a muted greeting as he made his way to his dresser, where he retrieved a fresh set of undergarments and his tracksuit. Though it might have been considered unwashed by some, to Naruto it was only deemed so if it was soiled with blood, vomit from fending off drunken assailants, or the remnants of spoiled food from the marketplace. In the cramped quarters of his apartment, Naruto sauntered towards the single bathroom, a makeshift space equipped only with a shower and toilet. As he closed the door behind him, he deftly jammed a kunai into the door frame to secure his privacy, for the doorknob had long been broken and his landlord had shown no inclination to repair it. He briefly glanced in the mirror, noticing the blue lettering above his head but not really registering it as he scrutinized his nose and whisker marks. Turning from the mirror, he flipped up the toilet seat, careful not to break it any further since the landlord would not fix it. He couldn't help the sigh of relief as he relieved himself, the excess liquid that had filled his bladder overnight now gone. He put the lid down but decided not to flush. A number 1 didn't warrant it, and usually, he would go out for a number 2. Business done, he stripped down quickly and stepped into the shower, bracing himself as he turned on the water. Almost immediately, he was met by ice-cold water that jolted him wide awake. He quickly grabbed the bar of soap and began to hastily scrub his body from top to bottom, ensuring he cleaned all the sensitive areas. Just as quickly, he rinsed and turned off the shower. All told, it took about 2 minutes. Stepping out of the shower, Naruto reached for his toothbrush, its bristles already coated with a dollop of toothpaste. With a vigor that belied his circumstances, he vigorously brushed his teeth, though the act brought him no pleasure. He couldn't justify the use of the water. Exiting the bathroom, he made his way to the window, his fire escape, and the water pail he had strategically placed the night before to collect the precious rain. It was half full, a commendable haul for a single night. In the kitchen, he poured the collected water into 2 pitchers, pausing to pour himself a glass before placing the pitchers within his fridge. Ah, the refrigerator. The damned landlord, had neglected to fix or replace the appliance, and the man could scarcely afford to do it himself. It would not keep the water cold, per se, but it would at least prevent it from warming. He returned to the bathroom, scrubbing his teeth once more before holding the toothbrush over the sink and pouring a trickle of water over it. He could not afford to waste the water, not in a land that, for all its lushness, saw too little rain. Settling the toothbrush back onto the counter, he dressed himself and fussed with his hair. In doing so, he finally noticed the blue, glowing words hovering above his head. Name: Naruto Uzumaki. Level: 1. What the? Naruto moved his hands up and waved them through the words, not disturbing them in the slightest, while blinking and pinching himself several times. Okay, Naruto, You, my friend, have been spending way too much of your downtime playing video games. Naruto then slapped himself hard, nearly knocking himself to the floor. The truth was video games were his only salvation in his otherwise totally miserable and messed up life. When he was 5, the Hokage had given him his first video game console. It was the latest and greatest, and all the kids at school could do nothing but talk about them. Those who had one bragged about it, those who didn't were envious. When he said he had one, he thought it might lead to friendships, and some of the kids were interested. That didn't last, as their parents emphatically said, no, accompanied by threats of bodily harm. Regardless, games became Naruto's friends, taught him morality, right from wrong, good from evil. So, other than Ninja Academy and training, video games were Naruto's life. You're right, what was I thinking? I'm sure this is just some kind of delusion. I must have eaten a bad batch of instant ramen. That's why I'm seeing things. Blasphemy. Naruto glared once more at himself in the mirror. Then, he glanced up at the blue words again. Achievement unlocked. Selected as player. Reward options available. Choose one of the following. Note. Selection will be randomized. Luck may influence the outcome. Option 1. Feat. Definition. A special talent or an area of expertise that gives a character special capabilities. The chosen feat is randomized and grants unique abilities to the player. Option 2. Item. Definition. A physical object that can be utilized and equipped. Items range from weapons to magic artifacts. The item received is based on luck and is drawn randomly. Option 3. Scroll. Definition. A scroll containing knowledge of techniques. Unlocks new skills and information when read. The contents of the scroll are random and may contain rare or unique skills. Option 4. Stat points. Definition. Points that can be allocated to enhance a player's physical attributes. The number of stat points awarded is determined randomly from 0 to 10. Option 5. Companion. Definition. A pet that assists the player in their journey. Companions vary in abilities and species. The companion received is based on chance. Option 6. Currency. Definition. Overworld currency that can be used for various transactions and acquisitions. The amount received is randomized. Choose wisely. Naruto, trying to make sense of it all, couldn't help but wonder if he was dreaming. Shrugging off his confusion, he decided to enjoy the moment. Might as well have some fun with this, Datbeo. He thought, considering his options. He began to reason through each choice. Option 1. Feat. This could give me some cool new ability, but it's a gamble. I don't know what I'll get. Could be awesome, could be something not so useful. Option 2. Item. Items are always handy, especially if it's something rare. But again, it's all up to luck. I could end up with something epic or just a kunai. Option 3. Scroll. A scroll could teach me a new jutsu. That's always a plus. But what if it's something I already know or can't use? Tough choice, Datbeo. Option 4. Stat point. Stat points mean I can boost my own abilities. That's a surefire way to get stronger. But is 10 points a lot or what? Option 5. Companion. Naruto's face frowned as he remembered trying to catch a cat to be his friend. That was the most horrible day ever. Option 6. Currency. Money's always useful. I could buy some serious ramen with it, Datbeo. After considering each option, Naruto concluded, the stat points seem like the safest bet. I know exactly what I'm getting, and I can use them to get stronger. But those feats and items are tempting too. Ah, this is harder than I thought, Datbeo. Naruto, finishing up his brushing routine, spat out his toothpaste and casually set his toothbrush aside. Just then, a notification popped up unexpectedly. His inadvertent motion while putting the toothbrush back ended up inadvertently making a selection for him. Fuck. Feat. Observer, passive. Level. NA. Description. The Observer feat enhances the user's ability to gather and analyze information from their environment. This ability is rooted in the user's continuous and attentive observation of their surroundings, people, and events. Passive enhancements. Enhanced perception. Sharpened sensory perception aids in noticing subtle details and changes in the environment. Analytical processing increases the efficiency of processing and analyzing observed information. Knowledge accumulation systematically collects and organizes knowledge based on observations made by the player. Conditions. Knowledge collection. The system gathers information based on Naruto's observations. Stat influence. Int and Wis influence the level of detail and accuracy of the knowledge. Observational detailing. The more observations Naruto makes, the more detailed the information provided. Level dependency. The player's level affects the quality and depth of knowledge acquired. Higher levels yield more profound insights. Special notes. This feat does not require activation and operates continuously. Naruto let out a groan as he looked at the feat he had unintentionally selected. Just my luck. A useless feat. What am I supposed to do with more knowledge? God damn it, I could have accidentally picked an item or some stat points. Sighing heavily, he hit the sink in frustration and immediately felt a sharp jolt of pain. He was about to yelp but then suddenly stopped himself. Wait a minute, I felt that. This isn't a dream. Naruto put his hands together, forming a hand seal quickly, and flared his chakra shouting, Kai. There was no effect at all. So if I did that wrong, I might still be in a genjutsu, but if I didn't, then I'm not in a genjutsu and this is all real, he said to himself. Naruto's expression turned determined as he considered the possibility of someone playing a trick on him. When I find out who's behind this, I promise you, I'll prank you to hell and back, Datbeo. He vowed. Naruto left the bathroom once more to put on his shoes, his hip pouch, and strap his weapons pouch to his leg. Casting a final glance around his apartment to ensure he hadn't forgotten anything, he opened the door and set out for the Konoha Shinobi Academy. As he descended the stairs of his apartment building, he was greeted by an unexpected sight. His landlord, a middle-aged man with a stern expression, was waiting for him at the exit of the building. Rent's due, his landlord barked, a golden question mark hovering above his head. Naruto quirked an eyebrow, intrigued by the sudden interruption. What the hell, why now? A gold window popped up in front of him. Initiating World Quest for player. Naruto. Quest parameters loading. There was a in the top left corner and an arrow in the bottom right corner. Naruto pressed the arrow. Alert. World Quest. Quest title. Pay the pig. Objective. Remit rent payment of 1,000 ryo to the landlord by 1800 hours. Rewards. 10 experience points. Enhanced reputation with landlord. Penalty for failure. Immediate eviction. Reputation decrement within Konoha village parameters. Action required. Acceptance or declination of quest. Naruto blinked several times. Make up your mind already, I don't have all day, said the landlord. Naruto quickly touched the acceptance button. Remember, 6 p.m. or you're out of here, said the man once more time before walking past Naruto, shouldering him rudely as he passed. Name. Michiya Oda. Title. Landlord. Level. 2. Note. For additional information, please level up or conduct more observations. Naruto's walk to the academy was a bit slower than usual as he looked around, now seeing level markers above everyone in the village. He quickly noticed that most children were only level 1. The ninja he saw varied from level 5 to around 10, and then there were many shinobi marked with a. It appeared that those around levels 1 to 5 were genin, while those level 5 and onward must have been chunin. B. Presumably indicated junin. If this held true to games, that meant their level was so high he couldn't even comprehend it. Name. Akamichi Dogo. Role. Master Baker. Level. 4. Class. Cook. Cool. Naruto spent the next 2 minutes trying to observe as many people as he could when another blue wind popped up. Again, cool, he said, his interest piqued yet again. Name. Akamichi Dogo. Role. Master Baker. Level. 4. Health points HP, 500 500ths. Chakra points CP, 150. Class. Cook. Description. Renowned master baker within the Akamichi clan. Famed across Konoha for exceptional baking skills. Another gold window popped up interrupting his excitement. Alert. World Quest. Quest title. Don't be late. Objective. Arrive at the academy on time. Time limit. 10 minutes. Rewards. 10 experience points. Enhanced reputation with class. Penalty for failure. Decrease in reputation with class. Action required. Acceptance or declination of quest. What? Shouted Naruto, quickly tapping the yes and beginning to sprint for the academy. He barely glanced at the large timer that began to count down in his peripheral vision. Naruto barely slid into the classroom with 20 seconds left. Quest. Don't be late. Status. Successfully completed. Rewards granted. 10 experience points, plus 1 reputation with classroom. Naruto would have paid more attention if he hadn't been huffing and puffing from having sprinted halfway across Konoha to make it to class on time. Granted, he recovered very quickly, but damn, that was difficult. Completed the quest, but why is reputation with the class so important? He wondered. What difference does it make, gaining reputation with them? Finally sitting down with a huff, Naruto looked around and saw that all of his classmates had the same blue lettering above their heads with their names and levels. It didn't make him happy either. As he surveyed the room, he noticed that most of the students were between levels 2 and 3, with the exception of 8 of his classmates. Name. Haruno Sakura. Role. Academy student. Level. 4. Name. Yamanaka Ino. Role. Academy student. Level. 4. Name. Hyuga Hinata. Role. Academy student. Level. 6. Name. Nara Shikamaru. Role. Academy student. Level. 5. Name. Akamichi Choji. Role. Academy student. Level. 5. Name. Inazuka Kiba. Role. Academy student. Level. 5. Name. Aburame Shino. Role. Academy student. Level. 6. Name. Uchiha Sasuke. Role. Academy student. Level. 8. Naruto wanted to cry out and scream in frustration. Why were they all so much better than him? How could it be possible that they were all so much stronger? As he began to observe each of them in turn, his frustration only deepened. Name. Haruno Sakura. Role. Academy student. Level. 4. HP. 100 100ths. CP. 50. Description. Haruno Sakura, recognized as the smartest student in class. Exhibits high intelligence but lacks in physical prowess. Known for her affection towards Uchiha Sasuke and rivalry with Yamanaka Ino over Sasuke-kun's affections. Naruto growled after that one. Name. Yamanaka Ino. Role. Academy student. Level. 4. HP. 100 100ths. CP. 70. Description. Member of the Yamanaka clan, known for mind techniques. Tends to prioritize appearance over skill development. Exhibits a strong affection for Uchiha Sasuke, leading to a rivalry with Haruno Sakura for his attention. Naruto rolled his eyes as he never understood why girls in his class liked that emo bastard. Name. Hyuga Hinata. Role. Academy student. Level. 6. HP. 150 150ths. CP. 100. Description. Member of the elite Hyuga clan, recognized for their dujutsu and unique taijutsu style. Hinata is known for her sweet nature but is quite shy, resulting in limited recognition among classmates. Her motivation to improve is fueled by the admiration for a person she holds in high regard. Naruto couldn't help but smile at that. Hinata sounded awesome and she was by far the strongest girl in the class. Alright, mumbled Naruto. Let's see what I can find with more and more time given to the observations. 30 minutes later. Name. Nara Shikamaru. Status. Lazy. Role. Academy student. Title. The Lazy Genius. Level. 5. Class. Shinobi of the Nara clan. Race. Human. HP. 100 100ths. AAC. 12. CP. 150/150ths. Lineage traits. Keen mind. Adaptability. Quick learner. Class features. Shadow manipulation. Stealth expert. Tactical genius. Feats. Redacted. Stats. STR. 7. Dex. 11. Con. 10. Int. 25. Wis. 15. Cha. 12. VIT. 10. Luck. 3. Allies. Ino Yamanaka, Shoji Akamichi. Equipment. Weapons. Redacted. Armor. Redacted. Gear. Redacted. Magic items. Redacted. Description. Nara Shikamaru is a member of the famed Nara clan known for their intellect and laziness. The unique ability to manipulate shadows makes them rather versatile shinobi. Shikamaru is by far the smartest Nara born in many generations and in turn is also the laziest. Note. Removal of redactions may occur through leveling up or engaging in combat. Damn, Shikamaru is something else, Naruto said in appreciation, earning a glance from the sleeping Nara a few seats over. Naruto smiled nervously at the look but was able to laugh it off. Shikamaru, admittedly curious, decided to shrug it off, mumbling, troublesome, as he turned his head back and closed his eyes once more. Naruto would have continued scanning the rest of the class, but his teachers chose that moment to enter. He was starting to like the names above their heads. This time though he noticed there was a leaf symbol next to their names. Name. Yumino Iruka. Status. Redacted. Title. Redacted. Level. 11. Class. Redacted. Race. Redacted. HP. 1000/1000ths. CP. Redacted. AAC. Redacted. Lineage traits. Redacted. Class features. Redacted. Feats. Redacted. Stats. Redacted. Allies. Redacted. Equipment. Redacted. Express. Redacted. Description. Yumino Iruka is a dedicated academy instructor finding his life fulfilled teaching the next generation of shinobi. Note. Yumino Iruka's level is greater than the player's. Removal of redactions is possible through engagement in combat or leveling up. Naruto tried the same technique on Mizuki, and the results were identical. It revealed a limit to his ability while his own level remained too low. This raised several questions. How could he level up? Was it solely through quests? And for that matter, what were his own stats? Then, it occurred to him that if this were a game, he should be able to access a command prompt of some kind, right? Profile. He tried first. Pause. Menu. Status. The last command brought up an orange menu. Name. Uzumaki Naruto. Status. Chakra imbalance, difficulty in controlling chakra, minus 100% performance in executing simple jutsus. Title. Academy student. Level. 1. Class. Unselected. Race. Human. HP. 300/300ths. AAC. 10. CP. 10K. Lineage traits. NA. Class features. NA. Feats. Observer. Stats. STR. 8. Dex. 8. Con. 8. Int. 8. Wis. 8. Cha. 8. VIT. 8. Luck. Stat points. 27. Allies. Equipment. Weapons. Armor. Gear. Magic items. Express. O. Description. Uzumaki Naruto is the dead last of the Konoha Academy, having failed the graduation twice before while clearly not prepared to graduate. His past is shrouded in mysteries for him to uncover. It's over 9,000. You need something, Naruto? Asked Iruka. No, Iruka-sensei, said Naruto, hoping the man would move on quickly. Then you can tell me what I just said. Iruka pressed. You introduced us to Mizuki-sensei. I guess you were paying attention, Iruka conceded, moving on. Your luck holds out and you save yourself from detention on the first period of class. Naruto had to restrain himself from jumping up and down and cheering. He checked his status again, and his luck stat was still So either it was really high, or negative, if that were even possible. What the hell does luck do for him anyway? Naruto tapped the symbol in the top left corner of his status window. Instantly, several small boxes appeared in black with greenish-yellow writing, and yellow lines were drawn pointing to each area of the status window. Name. The name of your character. It's how they are identified in the world. Status. A character's current condition, influenced by gameplay events. Statuses can be temporary, like stunned, or poisoned, or permanent, reflecting unique abilities or afflictions. Permanent statuses can be innate or acquired through specific actions. Title. Titles or accolades your character earns. They reflect achievements and can provide various benefits or recognition. Titles can change or be permanently attached based on your character's actions and storyline progression. Level. Represents your character's overall progression and experience. Higher levels unlock new abilities and increase overall strength. Class. Defines the role and skill set of your character. It determines the abilities they have and how they approach challenges. Race. The species or ancestry of your character. Each race has unique traits and abilities that influence gameplay. HP, hit points, represents the health of your character. If HP reaches 0, the character is incapacitated or dead. AC, armor class, indicates how hard it is for enemies to land a successful attack on your character. Higher AC means better defense. CP, chakra points, it represents the character's chakra reserve. Used to perform jutsu and other special abilities. Lineage traits. Special abilities and characteristics your character has due to their race. These can include physical or magical traits, unique skills, or resistances. Class features. Abilities and skills specific to your character's class. These define how your character functions in their role. Feats. Special talents or abilities that provide unique advantages or capabilities to your character. They can be chosen or earned. Stats. Your character's core attributes, impacting various aspects of gameplay. STR, strength, physical power and carrying capacity. Affects melee attacks and ability to handle heavy objects. DEX, dexterity, agility, reflexes, and balance. Influences ranged attacks, evasion, and stealth. CON, constitution, health and stamina. Affects health points and resilience. INT, intelligence, reasoning, learning, and memory. Boosts knowledge and spellcasting. WIS, wisdom, perception and insight. Enhances awareness and intuition. CHA, charisma, social interaction and influence. Improves persuasion and leadership skills. VIT, vitality, overall health and endurance. Determines stamina and recovery rate. LUK, luck, affects the likelihood of fortunate events and successes in uncertain situations. Stat points. Points allocated to your character's stats, shaping their strengths and weaknesses. Allies. Characters allied with your character, assisting in quests and battles. Equipment. Items your character carries for use in various situations. Weapons. Tools for combat, each with unique properties and uses. Armor. Protective gear to reduce damage from attacks. Gear. Miscellaneous items for various utility purposes. Magic items. Enchanted items with special powers and effects. Express experience points indicates progress towards the next level. Gained through completing tasks, overcoming challenges, and defeating enemies. Naruto couldn't help but sigh. It was a lot of information for him to process. He closed the menu and tried to focus on the lecture but quickly zoned out, daydreaming about all the kick-ass things he could do with his new ability. Okay, students, please read this booklet, and then we'll head out to the practice range to work on kunai and shuriken bukijutsu, Iruka announced. Mizuki began passing out the booklets to each of the students. Why do we have to read this again? Complained Kiba. Every year we get this damned booklet. Because every year we like to refresh our students so they don't get sloppy or lazy in their techniques, Iruka replied, his glare quickly silencing the Inuzuka boy. Naruto sighed as he looked at the booklet in front of him. Just when I thought I could escape into my thoughts, he mused. He grabbed the book and was about to open it when a new pop-up appeared. Notification. Opportunity detected to acquire skill, kunai and shuriken bukijutsu. Action required. Confirm acceptance or declination of class skill. Naruto nearly tore his hair out. He knew how to throw damned shuriken and kunai. What the fuck was wrong with this game? He tapped acceptance, just to see what would happen. Alert. Unable to learn skill, kunai and shuriken bukijutsu. Requirement. Please acquire shinobi class to proceed. Naruto, feeling a mix of frustration and curiosity, navigated back to the system screen. His focus zeroed in on the class option. With no class currently assigned, he wondered if the system would allow him to select one. Naruto's anticipation grew as he clicked to select a class. Instantly, the system screen transformed, presenting him with an array of class options. Wizard, masters of arcane magic and spellcasting. Barbarian, fierce warriors with unmatched strength and rage. Warlock, wielders of dark, often forbidden powers through deals with mysterious entities. Shinobi, stealthy and agile, experts in espionage and surprise attacks. Spirit Warden, guardians who draw strength from their bond with nature and spirits. And several others. Paladin, holy warriors driven by a divine cause. Ranger, skilled hunters and trackers with a deep connection to the wilderness. Sorcerer, innate casters with unpredictable magical abilities. Monk, masters of martial arts and inner energy. Bard, charismatic performers wielding the power of music and charm. Druid, shape-shifters attuned to the natural world and its cycles. Cleric, devout servants of deities, wielding divine magic. Naruto's eyes widened in awe. His heart raced with excitement. This was unlike anything he had ever seen before. Wow, a wizard. That would be amazing. Naruto clicked the wizard class. Action invalid. Requirements not fulfilled. Naruto growled again as the system screen flickered. Please meet the following requirements for the wizard class. Int. 23 or higher. Wis. 20 or higher. Mastery of the basic mana skill. Status. Pledge of Arcane. Naruto blinked. What the hell? Alert. Requirements for Warlock. Class selection initiated. Please meet the following requirements. CHA Charisma 33 or higher. INT Intelligence 20 or higher. Knowledge of at least one Eldritch invocation. Pact established with a mystical entity or power source. With a sigh, Naruto felt bored. What's the point if I can't select the good stuff? He thought, feeling a bit deflated. Reluctantly, Naruto tapped on the Shinobi class. Alert. Requirements for Shinobi class selection initiated. Required stats. STR Strength 12 or higher. DEX Dexterity 12 or higher. CON Constitution 10 or higher. INT Intelligence 11 or higher. WIS Wisdom 10 or higher. CHA Charisma 9 or higher. VIT Vitality 11 or higher. LUK Luck 12 or higher. Conditions can be met. Would you like to select the Shinobi class? Naruto, feeling a glimmer of hope, clicked acceptance. As he did, his stat points 27 were automatically distributed, updating his stats. Stats. STR 8 right pointing arrow 12. Dex 8 right pointing arrow 12. Con 8 right pointing arrow 10. Int 8 right pointing arrow 11. Wis 8 right pointing arrow 10. Cha 8 right pointing arrow 9. VIT 8 right pointing arrow 11. Luck right pointing arrow. Stat points remaining 4. Congratulations. Player Naruto has unlocked the Shinobi class. Select your clan affiliation. Senju Clan. Uchiha Clan. Uzumaki Clan. Hyuga Clan. Naruto, eyes wide, stared at the screen. Uzumaki Clan. Like the Uchihas and Senjus. For the first time, he felt a connection to something greater, a lineage he never knew he had. Unable to contain his emotions, Naruto suddenly stood up. I gotta go poo, he stammered, his voice cracking slightly. He dashed out of the classroom, leaving behind a wake of confusion. His classmates exchanged bewildered looks, but Hinata, watching him closely, noticed the tears glistening in his eyes. Her heart ached with worry as she silently wondered, what's wrong, Naruto-kun? As he ran, Naruto's mind raced. An Uzumaki clan. What does this mean? Who am I really? Inside the bathroom, Naruto sat on the toilet, his hands covering his face, as a torrent of emotions surged through him. The revelation of an existing Uzumaki family, a clan to which he belonged, shook him to his core. Tears streamed down his cheeks, a mix of joy, sadness, and anger. I had a family all along, he thought, his heart aching with the realization. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why did I have to find out like this? The weight of years spent alone, the orphan boy who had to fend for himself, hit him like a tidal wave. He felt a profound sense of loss for the years and connections he could have had. At the same time, there was a burgeoning sense of happiness, an unfamiliar warmth that spread through him. I'm not just a nobody, he thought. I'm an Uzumaki. I have a family, a history, a clan that's mine. The knowledge filled him with a sense of pride and belonging he had never experienced before. But it was also tinged with a deep-seated frustration. Why me? Why now? After all this time? What does it mean to be an Uzumaki? Who were they? Who am I? Naruto, still grappling with his emotions, swiped right on the system window. His eyes landed on the icon for the Uzumaki clan, distinguished by a symbol of a crimson swirl. Uzumaki clan. Renowned for their bright, red hair, members of this clan possess incredibly strong chakra. They are skilled in kenjutsu and renowned for their prowess in fuinjutsu, the art of sealing. Naruto patted his blonde hair, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. Red hair, huh, guess I'm half Uzumaki then. As Naruto selected the Uzumaki clan affiliation, the system window underwent a transformation. Name: Uzumaki Naruto. Lineage traits: NA right pointing arrow. Chakra chains locked. Mind's eye. Healer's body locked. Class features: NA right pointing arrow. Scrolls arts. Fuinjutsu. Naruto couldn't help but smile. For so long, he had felt like an outsider, but now, he finally had a place in a legacy, the Uzumaki clan. He sighed, a realization dawning upon him. I must find the Uzumaki clan. They are famous, right? But why have I never heard of them? He pondered before realizing he had never truly paid attention to his studies. This revelation prompted a vow to take his education at the academy seriously from now on. Suddenly remembering the class and race features, Naruto eagerly clicked on them. Lineage trait: Chakra chains. Description: a legendary ability of the Uzumaki clan, enabling the materialization of dense chakra outside the body in the form of chains. Status: locked. Unlock requirements: INT Intelligence 25. WIS Wisdom 30. CON Constitution 27. Naruto was amazed by this, but his excitement quickly faded when he read that the trait was locked. Lineage trait: Mind's eye. Description: a sensory technique that enhances perception. Historically used by the Uzumaki clan to navigate and survive the tides of the village hidden by whirling tides. Activation requires closing one's eyes and visualizing an eye opening. Naruto excitedly closed his eyes and tried to visualize it. For a brief moment, he saw an image of the entire academy in his mind, with each chakra signature vividly visible. However, the experience was overwhelming, and he quickly opened his eyes, feeling a sharp pain in his head. For the next few minutes, Naruto sat there, trying to ease the migraine that had set in. Yada. That hurts, but that was awesome. Ate ba yo. Class feature: Scroll arts. Level 1. Description: a unique style of combat involving jutsu scrolls, which is the signature combat style of the Uzumaki clan. Current capability: at level 1, you are capable of using up to 4 different scrolls in combat. Class feature: Fuinjutsu. Level 1. Description: the art of sealing, originally crafted by the son of the Sage of Six Paths and subsequently mastered by the Uzumaki clan. Fuinjutsu is so closely associated with the Uzumaki that it is often mentioned in the same breath as the clan itself. Current capability: at level 1, you are unable to create complete seals. You can only craft basic kanjis and arrays. Gazing at the skills displayed in the system window, Naruto vowed to grow stronger, to master these skills that connected him to his Uzumaki heritage. He cautiously peeked into the classroom, noticing it was empty except for Iruka, who was engrossed in an orange book, chuckling to himself. "Iruka-sensei," Naruto called out, causing Iruka to scramble and quickly hide the book. "You brat, where were you? It's lunchtime," Iruka began, his voice stern. But he suddenly stopped, noticing the redness in Naruto's eyes, as if he had been crying. "Naruto, is something wrong?" Naruto forced a smile. "I'm fine, Iruka-sensei. I just had a few questions for you." "Oh," Iruka sounded surprised, not used to Naruto being this serious. "Okay, ask away. Where is the Uzumaki clan?" Iruka froze, his expression turning to one of concern. "Naruto, I know it's hard to not have a family, but—" "Answer the question, sensei," Naruto insisted, his glare firm. Sighing, Iruka replied, "Naruto, I don't know. My knowledge is limited to the courses I teach and what's around the Fire Nation." "Do you know where Uzushiogakure is?" A little embarrassed, Iruka admitted, "No." Naruto growled in frustration. "You're useless, sensei." Iruka, feeling a vein pop in anger, grabbed Naruto's ears. "Naruto, stop asking these irrelevant quests." He grunted as Naruto suddenly punched him in the gut, the force of the blow driving the air from his lungs and doubling him over in pain. A sharp, pulsating ache spread quickly through his midsection. "These are not irrelevant questions." Naruto's shout echoed through the hall, revealing a side of him Iruka had never seen, blind fury. Okay, Naruto, calm down," Iruka said, trying to soothe the situation. "Why don't you go check out the library? I'm sure there's a book on Uzushiogakure there." Naruto huffed and ran out of the class, slamming the door behind him. Iruka, clutching his stomach, was left in disbelief. What was that insane strength? Naruto found himself in front of the small library, a modest room lined with shelves of books, the air redolent with the scent of old paper. He was arguing with the librarian, a stern-looking woman who seemed completely indifferent to his pleas. "Please, I just need to look for something important." The librarian, unfazed and still holding a grudge from a past incident, replied dryly, "After what you did with the coffee, you expect me to let you in here? Not a chance, troublemaker." Naruto's fists clenched, his fury barely contained. "That was ages ago. I'm serious this time. I need to find information. Even if you were the last ninja in Konoha, I wouldn't let you in," the librarian retorted, her voice cold. "You've caused enough trouble here, Naruto. No way am I allowing you to potentially wreck this place too. But this is really important to me. It's not about pranks or jokes this time. Please, I need to find out about my clan." The librarian scoffed, unmoved by his plea. "Find another way to satisfy your curiosity. The library is off limits to you, Naruto." End of discussion. Naruto's face turned a deep shade of red, his anger reaching a boiling point. The frustration of being denied access to the information he desperately sought about his clan was overwhelming. He clenched his fists tightly, his body tensing as if he were about to attack the librarian in his fury. Just then, a voice intervened. "He's with me." The librarian eyed the newcomer skeptically. "Fine. But if he breaks, burns, or does anything destructive, you'll be responsible." Naruto turned to see who had come to his aid. To his surprise, it was Hinata Hyuga, shyly looking at the floor. "Thanks, Hinata. You saved me a lot of trouble from breaking into the library," he said, loud enough for the librarian to hear, earning a sharp glare from her. "Why you shouldn't say that, Naruto-kun," Hinata whispered, her voice barely audible. "Whatever. Thanks anyway," Naruto replied, already turning away to find what he came for. He stopped, suddenly realizing he had no idea where to start looking. "Where can I find a book about villages outside of Konoha?" Row 3, Section F. Naruto looked bewildered, unsure where that was. Hinata, gathering her courage, softly said, "Follow me." 15 minutes later. Name: Hyuga Hinata. Status: Social anxiety, challenges in social interactions, minus 10% to charisma-based actions. Title: Academy Student. Level: 6. Class: Shinobi of the Hyuga clan. Race: Human. HP: 150 150ths. AAC: 12. CP: 100. Lineage traits: Byakugan enhanced perception, 360 degrees vision, ability to see chakra networks. Class features: Gentle Fist, precision strikes that target chakra points. Feats: NA. Stats: STR 8. Dex 10. Con 10. Int 12. Wis 10. Cha 6. VIT 9. Luck 10. Allies. Equipment: Weapons: Basic kunai and shuriken holster. Armor: Gray Genin grade baggy jacket. Gear: Hyuga clan full body gambasan. Magic items. Description: Member of the elite Hyuga clan, recognized for their dujutsu and unique taijutsu style. Hinata is known for her sweet nature but is quite shy, resulting in limited recognition among classmates. Her motivation to improve is fueled by the admiration for a person she holds in high regard. Naruto glanced at Hinata's stats, a bit puzzled. He had expected her to be stronger, given she was level 6. But she doesn't seem much different from me. Then he remembered his own situation. He had pushed some buttons and used 27 free points to get stronger, still having 4 points left. Not everyone has that kind of shortcut. Naruto-kun, Hinata's voice gently pulled him from his thoughts. She was blushing as she handed him a book. Here you go, she said softly. Naruto took the book, reading the title, Basic Geography. He quickly started flipping through it while standing. Naruto-kun, what are you looking for? Uzushiogakure. Naruto replied, his eyes scanning the pages. Hinata looked confused, never having heard of the place before. Why don't you look at the front page and see if there's a section about it? Naruto flipped to the table of contents, scanning for any mention of Uzushiogakure. Nothing. This isn't it, he muttered, his frustration growing. He grabbed 3 more books: History of the 5 Great Nations, Shinobi World Atlas, and Villages and Their Hidden Secrets. None of them had any information or even a mention of Uzushiogakure. Disappointed, Naruto slumped down at a table. Hinata stood beside him, watching his frustration with concern. Is there anything else I can help with, Naruto-kun? No, it's okay, Hinata. Thanks for trying. Naruto sighed, feeling a bit defeated. Noticing Naruto's disappointment, Hinata hesitantly spoke up. Naruto-kun, I will ask my father about Uzushiogakure. Naruto's face lit up with a genuine smile, making Hinata blush. Thank you, you don't know how much that means to me. Hinata nodded, then took out 2 books and handed them to Naruto. Here, you missed these while you were in the bathroom. Thanks, Naruto replied, slightly puzzled about why his books were with Hinata, but he didn't dwell on it. Suddenly, a notification popped up in his vision. Notification. Opportunity detected to acquire skill, kunai and shuriken bukijutsu. Action required. Confirm acceptance or declination of class skill. Without hesitation, Naruto confirmed the acquisition. Immediately, a large, intricate table with holes and lines materialized in front of him, labeled, Skill Table. Skills, Kunai Bukijutsu, and Shuriken Bukijutsu, have been unlocked in Skill Table. 2 prominent orange windows materialized subsequently. Kunai Bukijutsu. Level 1 active. Chakra points, CP, 5. Description. A weapons technique specialized for kunai, applicable in both melee and ranged combat. Passive enhancements. Kunai accuracy. Increased by 10%. Kunai parry. Enhanced by 10%. Active boost. Strength, STR, increase. Additional 10% for 15 seconds upon activation. Shuriken Bukijutsu. Level 1 passive active. Chakra points, CP, 5. Description. A weapons technique specialized for shuriken, primarily used in ranged combat. Passive enhancements. Shuriken accuracy. Increased by 20%. Active boost. Ranged damage. Additional 5% increase for 15 seconds upon activation. As he read through the details of the skills, information began to flood into his mind. Astonished, he placed the book down. He realized he had instantly learned everything it contained. Someone taught me wrong on purpose. Hinata looked at him curiously. Is everything okay, Naruto-kun? Yeah. Back in his seat after lunch, Naruto listened as Iruka announced the next activity. Since lunch is over, let's do some practice. The class soon found themselves outside, standing in front of 5 target dummies. The students were arranged in lines, 6 people per line. Iruka explained the exercise. Now, you will step up to the line and throw 5 kunai, then 10 shuriken. After that, go to the end of your line. Everyone will get 5 chances to throw. We will take your best round for your grade. Naruto's gaze drifted to Iruka as a golden question mark appeared over his head for a moment. World Quest Alert. Quest Name. Kunai and Shuriken Oh My. Achieve 80% accuracy or better. Objective. Successfully score 80% or higher accuracy in kunai and shuriken throwing. Reward for completion. Experience points, Express 20. Equipment provided. Academy Kunai X10. Academy Shuriken X20. Penalty for failure. Experience points, Express 2. Naruto was buzzing with excitement for this quest. With his new skills, he felt confident about acing the test. When his turn came, he stepped up to the line. On his first try, he hit the target with 4 out of 5 kunai and 7 out of 10 shuriken. He was a bit annoyed for not meeting the quest requirement. The second time around, he managed to hit with all 5 kunai, but again fell short with the shuriken, hitting only 6. He was getting closer, but it was still not enough. By the third attempt, Naruto threw with precision, hitting 86% of the targets, successfully completing the quest. Completion achieved. You've hit the target with commendable accuracy. Rewards granted. Experience points, Express 20. Academy Kunai X10. Academy Shuriken X20. Naruto received another alert shortly after. Path Quest Alert. Quest Name. My Personal Best. Achieve 90% accuracy or better. Objective. Score 90% or higher accuracy in kunai and shuriken throwing. Reward for completion. Experience points, Express 100. Skill Book. Academy Intermediate Taijutsu. Penalty for failure. Experience points, Express 20. If the last quest had him excited, this quest had him dancing like a monkey. Yada! Naruto shouted excitedly. He was practically bouncing with excitement, eager to conquer the next quest. Naruto took a deep breath, his chest swelling. He closed his eyes for a moment, centering himself amid the rustling leaves and distant sounds of his classmates. As he exhaled slowly, his thoughts cleared, sharpening his resolve as he let them rip. For a split second, he felt the weight of eyes on him. Turning, he saw the faces of his classmates, all showing surprise, except for Mizuki, whose expression was pensive, almost lost in thought. Despite the stares, Naruto reveled in their astonishment, a part of him basking in the unexpected attention. Yet, beneath that fleeting pride, a nagging question lingered in his mind. He had learned kunai and shuriken bukijutsu a year ago, but now, reflecting on his stance and movements, he had realized everything he had been taught was wrong. Why was that? His contemplation was abruptly interrupted by Iruka's voice announcing the score. That's an 88% Naruto, good job. No, Naruto suddenly cried out, his voice cracking as he dropped to his knees. Quest outcome. Result. Completion failure. Penalty awarded. 20 experience points, Express. Naruto collected the practice weapons he had thrown and returned them to the teachers. Okay, students, back inside for history, Iruka announced, earning a groan from all the students. As they started heading back inside, Iruka called out, Naruto, wait a second. The class left, some teasing with a chorus of oohs. Naruto and Iruka stood facing each other, an awkward silence hanging between them. Both remembered the earlier incident where Naruto had hit Iruka. Naruto. Sensei. They paused. Then Iruka gestured for Naruto to speak first. I am sorry for hitting you, Sensei. I was just frustrated, Naruto admitted, his voice reflecting genuine remorse. Iruka placed his hand on Naruto's head, offering a kind smile. It's all right, Naruto. I wasn't professional in dismissing your questions. Even if I didn't have the answers, I should have been a better teacher and told you I'd try to find them. For that, I am sorry. Moved by Iruka's understanding, Naruto impulsively hugged him. I am also sorry for being a dumbass. That's fine, Iruka responded, returning the smile. Just make sure you do your homework. Naruto groaned in response but then added, fine. Iruka's smile grew warmer. And I'll try to find what I can about the Uzumaki clan, okay? Thanks, Iruka-sensei. In history class, Naruto tried to focus, but the lesson was dreadfully dull. The teacher droned on. The fire daimyo established the Water Lily Dance Festival to honor the ninjas who saved his daughters from pirates who. Naruto's attention waned. Okay, this is boring, he thought, and discreetly opened the system, tapping on the quest icon. Quests. Key objectives are tasks in a game-like system, often leading to rewards upon completion. Types of quests. World quests. These are quests that arise due to events or circumstances occurring in the game world. They are typically larger in scope and involve significant developments affecting the broader environment or multiple players. Path quests. These quests are personalized, stemming from a player's decisions, actions, or aspirations. Path quests are often related to the player's chosen class and race, guiding them on a journey that aligns with their character's development and goals. System quests. Quests that are directly assigned by the game's system. They can vary in nature and purpose, ranging from tutorial tasks to complex challenges designed to test the player's skills and decision-making. Well, that explains a lot. Naruto's curiosity led him to tap on the Express icon on the system, and a detailed explanation popped up. Express. Experience points, XP, are gained by overcoming challenges and defeating enemies. Accumulating XP leads to leveling up, which enhances a character's abilities and power. Level 1 to Level 2, 300 XP. Level 2 to Level 3, 600 XP, total of 900 XP. Level 3 to Level 4, 1800 XP, total of 2700 XP. Level 4 to Level 5, 3800 XP, total of 6500 XP. Level 5 to Level 6, 7500 XP, total of 14000 XP. Level 6 to Level 7, 9000 XP, total of 23000 XP. Level 7 to Level 8 11, 000 XP, total of 34,000 XP. Level 8 to Level 9 14, 000 XP, total of 48,000 XP. Level 9 to Level 10 16, 000 XP, total of 64,000 XP. Level 10 to Level 11 21, 000 XP, total of 85,000 XP. Level 11 to Level 12 15, 000 XP, total of 100,000 XP. Level 12 to Level 13 20, 000 XP, total of 120,000 XP. Level 13 to Level 14 25, 000 XP, total of 145,000 XP. Level 14 to Level 15 30, 000 XP, total of 175,000 XP. Level 15 to Level 16 35, 000 XP, total of 210,000 XP. Level 16 to Level 17 40, 000 XP, total of 250,000 XP. Level 17 to Level 18 50, 000 XP, total of 300,000 XP. Level 18 to Level 19, 60,000 XP, total of 360,000 XP. Level 19 to Level 20, 70,000 XP, total of 430,000 XP. Naruto then glanced at his own express bar, which read, Express. 60. He sighed, realizing the enormity of the task ahead. This is going to be a long journey. Naruto was uncertain about inviting Hinata to his secret hideaway, a quiet spot on the school roof where he often went to watch the sky. It was kind of his spot, really. Naruto would head there during any free period, when a class dragged on too long, or simply to enjoy his lunch. The only other people he ever encountered there were Choji and Shikamaru, though their appearances were sporadic, just a few times a month. It seemed the duo drifted from one rooftop to another without any real pattern. While Naruto longed to be friends, the feeling didn't seem mutual. Shikamaru would often just sleep there, earning his reputation as a lazy bum, and Choji was usually preoccupied with snacks. They weren't mean, but whenever Naruto tried to join them, he felt out of place, like he didn't quite fit in with their laid-back, contented demeanor. He wanted excitement and engagement. They seemed content with quiet and snacks. Naruto sighed, dreading the next class. It was math, his least favorite subject. He couldn't help but wonder why ninjas even needed to know math. Why would I need to know the angle at which I throw my kunai? Couldn't they teach us something useful, like doing taxes? He muttered to himself, though he wasn't quite sure if that was more useful. He was certain there had to be better things to learn out there. Right. Just then, Hinata caught his gaze, hesitating as if she sensed he wanted to say something. Hinata, you want to come to my secret hiding spot? He blurted out, immediately regretting his volume as he noticed several classmates turning their heads towards them. Hinata seemed to shrink a bit under the sudden onslaught of attention, and Naruto mentally kicked himself for making her uncomfortable. Well, I'll be on the roof if you want to hang out, he stammered, his voice cracking as he quickly made his escape from the classroom. Not everyone is like you. Naruto paused, the thought echoing in his mind. He really wanted to be friends with Hinata, she seemed awesome. But seeing how uncomfortable she became when everyone was looking made him uneasy. He sighed to himself, hoping this situation wouldn't turn out like it did with Choji and Shikamaru, where they knew each other but weren't really friends. I would like a friend, he thought, even if I have to change for it. Naruto headed to his locker to collect some scrolls on basic academy jutsus like the substitution jutsu, transformation, and the clone jutsu. His hand clenched slightly when he reached the scroll for the clone jutsu, a technique he had always had mixed feelings about. But a smile crept onto his face as he remembered how, thanks to the system, he had already mastered kunai and shuriken bukijutsu. If the system can help me learn the proper way to do kunai and shuriken bukijutsu, I should be able to do a clone jutsu. Notification. Opportunity detected to acquire the following skills. Transformation jutsu. Body replacement jutsu. Academy clone jutsu. Action required. Confirm acceptance or declination of class skill. Naruto paused to consider his options, wanting to gain a deeper understanding of these skills. Skills. Skills represent specific abilities or proficiencies a character can acquire and use. They are typically divided into 3 categories. Quest-based skills. These are skills obtained through special items, such as skill runes, or as rewards from completing quests or achievements. They often provide unique or powerful abilities not commonly found. Trained skills. These skills are developed through dedicated practice and training. They represent the gradual improvement of a character's abilities in a specific area over time. Class skills. These are skills available on a character's skill table and are directly linked to their class. They are unlocked and improved by using class-specific materials or reaching certain milestones within the class. As Naruto reflected, he realized the book in his hand contained the necessary information and material to perform the jutsu. This meant that as long as he had access to this book, the corresponding skill would become available for unlocking in his skill table. Naruto confirmed the previous notification when suddenly. System update. Skill unlocks. Skills unlocked in skill table. Transformation jutsu. Substitution jutsu. Skill unlock failure. Skill. Academy clone jutsu. Status. Cannot be unlocked due to chakra imbalance. Conditions to unlock. Requirement. Achieve level 10 in chakra control. Naruto felt the information about the substitution and transformation technique enter his head. Substitution jutsu. Level. 1 active. Chakra points, CP, required. 10. Description. A defensive maneuver that utilizes smoke and rapid movement to evade and hide from attacks. Stat effects. Evasion rate. Plus 10% chance to avoid a direct hit from an enemy attack. Stealth increase. Plus 15% effectiveness in creating diversions and obscuring enemy vision with smoke. Movement speed. Plus 10% temporary boost in speed to enhance evasion and mobility. Transformation Jutsu. Level 1 active. Chakra points, CP, required. 8. Description. An illusionary technique that creates a thin layer of chakra over the body, enabling the user to assume the appearance of another person or object. Stat effects. Illusion success rate. Plus 20% probability of successfully creating a convincing illusion. Disguise duration. Plus 30% extended time the transformation can be maintained. Chakra efficiency. Plus 10% reduction in chakra consumption while maintaining the illusion. Naruto muttered to himself as he unrolled the scrolls, his voice barely a whisper. Everything I learned was wrong. He noticed discrepancies everywhere. The hand signs he had been taught were incomplete, the descriptions of how the jutsus should look were incorrect, and even the recommended practice methods were flawed. While he could somewhat understand the errors in Kunai and Shuriken Bukijutsu, after all, he hadn't been the most diligent student in those areas. Transformation and substitution were different. Those were the techniques he had excelled in, the ones he had poured his heart into mastering. For months, he had practiced tirelessly, believing he was perfecting his skills. Tears welled up in Naruto's eyes as the realization hit him hard. He had been deliberately misled. Why did I do something wrong? He paused, struggling to make sense of it all. Are my pranks something to destroy my future over? His voice was shaky, the words tumbling out between sobs. Naruto's lips quivered as he turned to the system, his last beacon of hope in a world that suddenly seemed stacked against him. Help. Hybrid quest alert. Quest. Confrontation. Objective. Confront one of the teachers suspected of sabotaging player Naruto. Discover their motives while ensuring no suspicion arises during the confrontation. Reward. Dungeon key. Failure. None. Note. If player Naruto is discovered to be aware of the sabotage, unforeseen consequences may ensue. Action required. Confirm acceptance or declination of quest. Naruto accepted. Choose from the following. 1. Tuji Mizuki. 2. Fujino Omori. Naruto's eyes fixed on the second name on the list, Fujino Omori. His Kokugo teacher. Everything he knew about reading, writing, grammar, and literature came from her. She was one of the few teachers he genuinely liked because she had always been kind to him. The thought that she might be deliberately sabotaging him felt like a kunai stabbing him in the back. It hurt, deeply. Overwhelmed by betrayal, Naruto hugged his knees to his chest and screamed into them. All his sadness, all his unanswered questions poured out in that raw, primal scream. He knew once he stopped, the tears would follow, and he wasn't ready for them yet. He didn't know how long he sat there, curled up, head pressed against his legs. An hour, maybe 2, or even 3. He didn't think. He couldn't bear to think. NN Naruto-kun, a stuttering voice eventually broke through his self-imposed isolation. Naruto looked up to see Hinata standing there, her face etched with concern and a hint of guilt. Are you okay? Hinata asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Taking a deep breath, Naruto shifted slightly, trying to compose himself. Hinata, let's say hypothetically you knew your teachers were sabotaging you, how would you confront them without looking like you know their scheme? He asked, his voice steady but his eyes desperate for answers. Hinata scratched her head, the intensity of Naruto's gaze making her nervous, yet she wanted to help. She gulped. IW would give a comparison between me and some other students, asking in between the lines about the sabotage. That's a great idea, Naruto said. Hinata smiled, relieved but still puzzled. Why was that a good idea? She whispered. I gotta go, Naruto said abruptly, his mind racing with plans. Without another word, he jumped off the roof, leaving behind a confused and concerned Hinata. Abashi Tenma, a civilian-born orphan, was tidying up his locker when something struck him with startling speed. The impact knocked him off his feet and onto the ground, leaving him disoriented and scrambling to understand what had just happened. As he lay there, a mix of confusion and the sharp sting of pain clouded his senses. Looking up to see the cause of his sudden fall, he heard an apologetic voice cut through his fog. Sorry. The word registered slowly as he spotted Naruto darting away in the distance. What's with him? Tenma muttered to himself, his voice tinged with irritation as he pushed himself up to sit. He turned back to his locker, his thoughts still spinning from the encounter. Noticing his test papers were missing, he surmised they must have fallen during the commotion. Must have fallen down when that dead last hit me. Can't even see and says he wants to be Hokage, he grumbled under his breath. As Naruto hurried away from Tenma, his mind was a whirlwind of frustration and disbelief. He glanced at his own test paper, clutched tightly in his hand. His grades were average, neither high enough to draw attention nor low enough to cause concern. Yet, something was off. As he scrutinized the marks, he realized that some of his wrong answers were marked correct and some correct answers were marked wrong. Naruto took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising tide of rage within him. He could feel his pulse pounding in his temples, a woozy sensation clouding his thoughts. His heart raced, and his breaths came in heavy, uneven gasps. It was the kind of anger that demanded action, that could not be easily soothed or ignored. Naruto whispered to himself, after this is over, I don't care what excuses you have, I am going to prank you to the point you'll wish you hadn't even thought of this sabotage. An hour later, Naruto approached the Kokugo classroom, mentally prepping himself. You got this, just like we rehashed. Think of this like the pre-plan for a big prank. Like how you scouted the time schedule of the guards at the Hokage monument, he thought, bolstering his courage. He slid open the faded green door to reveal his teacher, Fujino, who looked like she was about to head home. For the first time, Naruto noticed a brief flash of genuine fear behind her red-rimmed glasses as she saw him. An easy smile quickly masked her initial reaction. Naruto, what can I do for you? I'm surprised you haven't headed home. It's quite late. Naruto worked to calm the nervousness brewing from his anger, fearing he might blurt out his accusations prematurely. Can I talk to you, sensei? As he spoke, Fujino busied herself around the room, placing her bag on the table and pulling out a chair opposite her desk for him. She reached into her purse and pulled out a piece of chocolate, offering it to him with a kind gesture. Here. Naruto paused at the sight of the chocolate. He had always liked these chocolates, mostly because they came from someone he trusted. Yet, as he bit into it, all he could taste was bitterness. It gave him a moment to observe her carefully, using his observer feet to glean as much as he could from her demeanor and reactions. He silently thanked whatever powers that be for granting him such a useful ability. Fujino clasped her hands together and leaned forward, her gaze briefly flickering to the test paper on the table. So, what's bothering you? Naruto slid both his and Tenma's papers across the desk towards Fujino. I don't want to upset you, but you marked my paper wrong. Wrong. Fujino looked puzzled. What do you mean? I checked my paper against Tenma's. It was 45%. Which means, Naruto paused, his heart pounding in his chest, I didn't pass. No. Fujino spoke softly, her voice low and gentle. No, Naruto. You didn't fail, you did goo. I know why you did it though. Naruto interjected with a forced giggle that made his cheeks hurt, though his eyes continued to watch her intently. He had realized that the confrontation was meant to give enough time for the observer feat to work its magic, allowing him to understand her motives. She swallowed hard. Naruto. It's because you like me, isn't it? Naruto's accusation was hesitant, laced with a betrayal he felt deeply since he had truly thought he could trust her. What? Don't you like me? Actually, I think I'm your favorite student too. You wouldn't bring my grade up without me being your favorite, he continued, trying to keep the glare out of his eyes. Her face fell, her eyes wide with shock. It's okay, sensei. I understand. Sometimes, we do wrong things because we don't want to hurt the people we care about, Naruto said, checking his system to see if the description had changed. Naruto. Fujino's face was still pale, shock evident in every expression. But it's not fair to give me better marks because you like me, Naruto continued, his voice serious and firm. You've got to treat me the same as everyone else, otherwise you could get in trouble. I don't want you to lose your job. Naruto stood up abruptly, his desire to leave overwhelming him. He could feel anger boiling inside, pushing him towards actions he knew he would regret. With a shake of his head, he hurried out of the room, driven by a need to understand why he had been sabotaged. Come on, observer feet, don't fail me now, Naruto silently urged, his focus intensifying on the system that was now his lifeline. It was the only thing preventing him from lashing out, the only control he had over the storm of emotions swirling inside him. As Naruto quickly left Fujino and the classroom behind, he pinned all his hopes on the system for some kind of explanation. He needed answers, any answers, about why this was happening to him. As he walked, his initial desire for a reasonable explanation faded, overtaken by a more urgent need to know the truth, no matter what it was. Name: Fujino Omori. Status: depressed, PTSD. Title: Academy Teacher. Level: 9. Class: Civilian Shinobi. Race: Human. HP: 1770 1770ths. AAC: 23. CP: 1180 1180ths. Lineage traits: none. Class features: natural affinity. Kaden fire style. Feats: none. Stats: STR: 20. Dex: 26. Con: 21. Int: 25. Wis: 21. Cha: 13. Allies: Konoha. Equipment: weapons, redacted. Armor, redacted. Gear, redacted. Magic items, redacted. Description: Fujino Omori survived the devastating Nine Tails attack on October 10, which left her a widow. Unable to cope with the stress of active duty as a shinobi, she became a teacher. However, her fears resurfaced when she found herself teaching Naruto Uzumaki, redacted, triggering her grief-stricken mind with fears of the Kyuubi attack. Naruto was utterly bewildered. The idea that his teacher might blame him for her husband's death just because he was born on October 10 seemed absurd. What the hell is wrong with that woman? He thought, his initial anger shifting to pity. It dawned on him that she was a deeply troubled woman, channeling her grief and pain onto an orphan who had nothing to do with her husband's demise. Initially, Naruto had considered playing a prank on her as a way of getting back, but now that just seemed cruel. With a heavy heart, he decided it was best to leave her alone. Sitting down in the hallway, he turned his attention to the system, and there, to his surprise, was a reward he never expected to see in reality. Item: Underground Rat Tunnels Dungeon Key. Type: Dungeon Access Key. Description: a rustic, aged key crafted from iron, bound with faint rune engravings that hum softly in the presence of underground passages. It unlocks the treacherous and winding paths of the underground rat tunnel. Special requirement: this key must be used in any basement area to activate its power and gain access to the dungeon. If someone asked Naruto the place he'd least like to visit, without hesitation, he'd say the basement. With a grimace, he delivered another forceful kick to the stubborn basement door. Open up, you damn door. He grunted, frustration building. Another kick. Bastard landlord, he muttered under his breath, can't install a decent door at the front, but sure, let's make Fort Knox out of the basement door. His comment was accompanied by yet another hefty kick. Finally, with a creak that seemed to groan in defeat, the door swung open, revealing the dismal sight of his basement. The room was dimly lit, with only a few slivers of light sneaking through the small, grimy windows. Cobwebs clung to every corner, and a musty, almost moldy smell wafted up, assaulting Naruto's nose. Ugh, what a dump. The floor felt sticky under his feet, and he could swear something skittered away into the shadows as he moved forward. Great. Probably more rats than a sewer down here. He looked around, half expecting to see something jump out at him. Would you like to use item? Dungeon key. Naruto confirmed, and suddenly an ethereal keyhole materialized in front of him. He took out the dungeon key and inserted it into the keyhole. As Naruto turned the key, he heard the familiar click of a lock opening. Suddenly, the keyhole before him began to crack like a mirror. He watched in awe as the cracks spread, weaving through the air and creating a door that floated in the middle of the room, unattached to any wall or hinge. Awesome. He looked at the system window. How did you do that dungeon? He said aloud, half expecting an answer. The system remained silent. I need to prepare some things before I go in there. 30 minutes later. Naruto stood in front of the mirror, surveying his makeshift armor with a critical eye. He had assembled an eclectic array of items he thought might be useful. Stink bombs, a rubber chicken, kunai, shuriken, and his DIY armor. The armor was a haphazard creation of wood and plastic pieces, all held together with copious amounts of duct tape wrapped around his body. Well, it's not exactly ninja gear, but it'll have to do. He gave himself a final once-over in the mirror. Alright, let's do this. As Naruto opened the dungeon door and stepped inside, a notification from the system immediately popped up. Dungeon entry detected. Welcome to the Rat Dungeon. Objective. Clear the dungeon by eliminating the mischief of rats. Warning. Be cautious of hidden traps and unpredictable enemies. Rewards. Successful completion will grant 100 experience points. Failure. Any exit before completion will result in loss of reputation with landlord. Dungeon difficulty. Beginner. Warning. Level 2 or above is recommended for optimal survival. Proceed with caution. Naruto cautiously made his way through the dungeon, his eyes scanning the surroundings illuminated by the glow of unusual rocks. As he observed them closely, his observer feat triggered. Item. Rad ore. Type. Magic. Description. An ore made from the feces of rats of the dungeon. Naruto wrinkled his nose in disgust. Aw man, why did it have to be poop? Just then, he heard a sound. Reacting swiftly, Naruto used the transformation jutsu. As he completed the necessary hand signs, his chakra formed a flowing layer directly on his skin. This chakra was special. It was manipulated to reflect light in a specific way. It bent and reflected the light around him, crafting the illusion that he had transformed into one of the glowing rocks scattered around the cave. Though he remained in his original form, to any onlooker, Naruto had seamlessly become indistinguishable from the rocks. A giant rat, by normal standards, entered the area. It looked around, unaware of Naruto's presence. Naruto observed it closely. Name. Chakra Rat. Status. Relaxed. Title. Dungeon Monster. Level. 1. Class. None. Race. Rattus anthropomorphous. HP. 30/30ths. AAC. 1. CP. 100/100ths. Lineage traits. Long tail. Sharp tooth. Class features. NA. Feats. NA. Stats. STR. 8. Dex. 8. Con. 8. Int. 8. Wis. 8. Cha. 8. VIT. 8. Luck. 8. Allies. Mischief of the Rat Colony. Equipment. NA. Description. A low-level dungeon monster that roams the outside of the dungeon. Surprised by the rat's appearance, Naruto prepared to attack. He quietly pulled out a shuriken. The shuriken spun through the air and struck the rat in the eyes. The rat screamed in pain but couldn't locate its attacker. Seizing the opportunity, Naruto used kunai bukijutsu and swiftly slit the rat's throat. Congratulations! You have defeated one dungeon monster, Chakra Rat. Achievement unlocked. First dungeon conquest. Reward. 200 experience points. Kunai bukijutsu. Level 2 active. Chakra points CP required 7. Description. A weapons technique for kunai, enhancing both melee and ranged combat proficiency. Passive enhancements. Kunai accuracy. increased by 15%. Kunai parry, enhanced by 15%. Active boost. Strength STR increase, additional 15% for 20 seconds upon activation. Shuriken Bukijutsu. Level 2 passive active. Chakra points CP required 7. Description. An improved weapons technique for Shuriken, further honing ranged combat skills. Passive enhancements. Shuriken accuracy increased by 25%. Active boost. Ranged damage. Additional 10% increase for 20 seconds upon activation. Surprised by the sudden improvement in his skills, Naruto realized that using his skills to defeat the dungeon monster must have contributed to their leveling up. Is there another way to level up skills? His thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Naruto found himself face to face with something he hadn't expected, a humanoid rat wielding a spear. Name: Rat Spearman. Status: Furious. Title: Dungeon Monster. Level: 3. Class: Knight. Race: Rattus anthropomorphus. HP: 50/50ths. AAC: 3. CP: 120/120ths. Lineage traits: Long tail. Sharp tooth. Class features: Spearmanship. Feats: NA. Stats: STR: 10. Dex: 13. Con: 8. Int: 8. Wis: 8. Cha: 8. VIT: 8. Luck: 8. Allies: Mischief of the Rat Colony. Equipment: Garbage Spear. Description: a guard that roams the outside of the dungeon. Naruto clicked his tongue in annoyance and quickly threw a kunai at the rat spearman. However, the monster skillfully deflected it with its spear. As the rat spearman lunged forward with its spear poised to strike, Naruto used the substitution technique. He felt a surge of chakra explode from his ankles, propelling him forward at an astonishing speed. For a fleeting second, he moved so fast that he left behind nothing but a cloud of smoke and a decoy, a log he had prepared earlier with a storage seal. In the midst of the smoke, where Naruto had just stood, the dungeon monster's spear thudded into the log, momentarily deceived by the substitution. From his new position, Naruto quickly regained his footing, barely pausing as he pulled out a kunai. This wasn't just any kunai, it was wrapped with an explosive seal. With a swift motion, Naruto aimed and hurled the kunai back toward the rat spearman. As the kunai struck, the explosive seal attached to it detonated with a deafening blast. The explosion engulfed the dungeon monster in a burst of fire and smoke, sending it reeling backward. The rat spearman screamed in agony, temporarily blinded and severely disoriented by the sudden and violent explosion. Its movements became erratic as it tried to regain its senses. Now's my chance. Using kunai bukijutsu, he hit both of the monster's eyes. The rat spearman thrashed about in pain, now an easy target. Naruto continued his long-range assault, running around the monster and striking it repeatedly. A few minutes later, a sweaty and exhausted Naruto stood over the defeated rat spearman. I did it. It took everything I had, but I did it. Congratulations. You have defeated one dungeon monster. Rat spearman. 40 Express has been earned. Player Naruto's Express has reached 100. Congratulations. You have leveled up. You have been awarded 2 stat points for leveling up. Class feature: Fuinjutsu. Level 2. Description: the art of sealing, originally crafted by the son of the Sage of Six Paths and subsequently mastered by the Uzumaki clan. Fuinjutsu is so closely associated with the Uzumaki that it is often mentioned in the same breath as the clan itself. Passive enhancements. Seal efficiency. Reduces chakra cost for creating and applying seals by 10%. Active boosts. Adaptive sealing. Seals dynamically adjust their containment strength based on the nature of what they are sealing, increasing efficiency by 10%. Fuinjutsu Scroll Library. A Fuinjutsu seals are recorded here. 1. Explosive seal. 2. Storage seal. Either level up or interact with more seals to increase library. Naruto's smile of triumph was short-lived as he suddenly heard more monsters approaching. The sound of their steps was getting louder. Panic started to set in as Naruto tried to think of a plan. He knew he couldn't fight multiple monsters at the same time. As Naruto quickly assessed his situation, he glanced at his stats. Okay. Think, Naruto, think. Agility is key here. I need to be faster, dodge quicker. And my brain could use some boosting too, gotta be smarter about this. And awareness, yeah, that's important. Can't let these monsters catch me off guard. Naruto realized he had 6 stat points available for allocation. He quickly decided to distribute them. Stats. STR. 12. Dex. 12 right pointing arrow 14. Con. 10. Int. 11 right pointing arrow 13. Wis. 10 right pointing arrow 12. Cha. 9. VIT. 11. Luck. As Naruto allocated the stat points, he immediately felt a tangible change. His mind became clearer than ever, thoughts flowing more smoothly and rapidly. His body felt lighter and more agile, as if he could react to anything in a split second. Ideas for tactics and strategies began to pop into his head, a new level of creativity and insight that he hadn't experienced before. Is this because of the stat increase? He paused, a question forming in his mind. Wait, why didn't I get this kind of feeling at level 1? Maybe the system only grants noticeable physical and mental changes after a certain level. It could be that the initial stats were baseline, and only additional points create perceivable effects. Or perhaps it's like muscle training. You don't feel stronger immediately after the first workout, but over time, the improvements become obvious. With the echoing footsteps of the monsters getting closer, Naruto took a deep breath and closed his eyes. He focused, visualizing the incoming threats as blips of energy in his mind's eye. Each movement, each shift in their approach became crystal clear, allowing him to anticipate their next moves. Quickly, he reached into his pouch and pulled out an empty scroll. With a deft movement, he took a kunai and pricked his thumb, squeezing just enough to get a drop of blood. You monsters are going to see why I am the greatest prankster in Konoha. A dozen rat spearmen, under the command of their rat king, hastened towards the source of the disturbance, their ranks visibly divided by the condition of their weapons. Those leading the charge brandished the shiniest, most meticulously maintained spears, while those following held spears that were noticeably duller and less cared for. As the group neared a particular room, they noticed one of their own gesturing towards a scatter of scrolls on the ground. With cautious steps, they approached, eyes scanning for any sign of the enemy. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by the sound of something hitting the floor. They spun around to see a grinning rat spearman, but as a dust smoke bomb erupted, his form dissolved into the smoke, revealing Naruto, who taunted, "Word of advice, don't combine smoke and explosions, Datbayo." Before they could react, Naruto sprinted away, leaving a few quicker spearmen snapping at his heels. But they were too late. "Fu and release!" Naruto shouted, and there was an explosive boom. The explosion, magnified by the smoke, was catastrophic. The smoke particles increased the rate of combustion, making the explosion much more intense. The dense smoke acted like a fuel, causing a rapid, violent expansion of gases that instantaneously vaporized the rat spearmen closest to the blast. Those slightly farther away were slammed with such force into the hull walls that their bodies were reduced to paste upon impact. Naruto gazed at the aftermath of his explosive strategy. The walls were blackened and scarred, fragments of the destroyed door were scattered everywhere, and a heavy, acrid smell of smoke hung in the air. As he stood in the hallway, slightly away from the epicenter, Naruto could see the floor littered with debris and the plaster from the ceiling dusted down like a light snowfall. Next time, pick a better strategy because that was too close, Naruto thought, wiping the sweat from his brow. From the smoky haze of the damaged room, a single spearman emerged, or rather, stumbled out. Calling it a walk was a stretch, it was more like a faltering fall down the hall. The creature didn't move with any purpose, but it wasn't dead either. Its form was eerily still, its body completely charred, a blackened silhouette against the lesser damaged hallway. Deciding to put it out of its misery, Naruto carefully aimed a kunai. With a swift, practiced motion, he threw it, watching as it spun through the air and embedded itself into the monster's throat. The spearman's body jerked once with the impact, then slumped down in a heap, finally still. Congratulations. You have defeated Dungeon Monster times 12. 120 Express has been earned. Naruto glanced at the notification, but quickly shifted his attention back to the fallen monster. He watched as the rat spearman's body shimmered and turned to dust, then disappeared. He had noticed this with most of the monsters he had defeated. It created a strange disconnect for him, blurring the lines between reality and the game-like system. These things. They can hurt me, make me feel real pain, Naruto thought, his gaze fixed on the spot where the rat spearman had vanished. But when they die and turn to dust, it's like they were never real. Like toys or something. He sighed deeply, trying to make sense of the surreal experience. As Naruto thought about his situation, he realized that each skill had its own leveling system, independent of the overall experience points he gained from defeating monsters. The levels of individual skills, such as Shuriken Bukijutsu, depended on their usage, practice, and experience in battle. In other words, a skill would only level up if he consistently used it. He also noted that continuous actions decreased the express gain. For instance, if he defeated a monster and received a high amount of express the first time, the express gain would be halved if he faced the same level monster again. This system prevented him from grinding endlessly against the same opponents. He needed to face new challenges to grow stronger. Inventory. Weapons. Makeshift spears times 2. Description. Improvised spears, effective for basic combat needs. Durability. 71/100. Stat effects. STR. +2 when equipped. Dex. +1 when equipped. Armor. Rat Warrior's Armor. Description. Armor crafted from the remains of a formidable rat warrior. Offers decent protection. Durability. 120/150. Stat effects. HP. +50 when equipped. VIT. +2 when equipped. Items. Rat Gold Tooth. Description. A rare tooth, possibly valuable to certain collectors or useful in specific crafting. Durability. NA. Refined ore. Description. High-quality ore, essential for crafting superior weapons or armor. Durability. NA. Naruto quickly decided to equip the new items he found in the dungeon. Most of his current equipment was either gone or destroyed, and some items, like the stink bombs, hadn't proved to be as useful as he'd hoped. With the new gear equipped, his stats received a noticeable boost. HP. 300, 300 and 353 150ths +50 from Rat Warrior's Armor. Stats. STR. 12 right pointing arrow 14 +2 from makeshift spears. Dex. 14 right pointing arrow 15 +1 from makeshift spears. Feeling slightly more fortified with the new gear, Naruto used Mind's Eye to scan the dungeon. To his realization, he had cleared out most of the dungeon, except for one area, the boss room. Naruto took a deep breath, steeling himself for the final challenge. Looks like it's just the boss room left. Time to finish this. Naruto stood in front of the boss room, confronting a door that resembled a cage, as if designed to keep something monstrous contained within. He inhaled deeply, gathering his courage before pushing the door open. As he stepped inside, he found himself in a room where the floor was entirely covered in skulls, creating an eerie and foreboding atmosphere. His eyes then fell on the boss, who was just beginning to rise. The creature was a foot taller than Naruto, with 3 rat heads and a giant, corpulent body. It was an intimidating sight. Name. Rat King. Status. Calm. Title. Dungeon Monster. Level. 5. Class. Barbarian. Race. Rattus anthropomorphus. HP. 500 500ths. AAC. 15. CP. 100 100ths. Lineage traits. 3 heads. Prehensile tail. Class features. Rageful attack. Damage to power. Feats. NA. Stats. STR. 20. Dex. 15. Con. 8. Int. 8. Wis. 10. Cha. 6. VIT. 8. Luck. 8. Allies. Mischief of the rat colony. Description. Born a freak with 3 heads, hated and shunned by everyone, but this rat made itself the king of the dungeon. It ruled with power, favored the weak, and hated the talented. Naruto exhaled slowly, his mind racing to strategize. Yeah, this is going to be hard. Naruto cautiously began the battle by throwing a shuriken at one of the Rat King's heads, testing its defenses. To his surprise, the head snapped at the shuriken, effortlessly crushing it between its teeth. Noted. Don't let that thing near me. The Rat King let out a deafening scream and lunged at Naruto. In response, Naruto grabbed a spear, but the Rat King was quicker. With a swift tail swipe, the Rat King shattered the spear and sent Naruto flying backward. HP. 250 350ths plus 50 from Rat Warrior's armor, right pointing arrow HP decreased. 200 300ths. Weapons have been removed. Temporary stat buffs removed. Stats. STR. 14 plus 2 from makeshift spears, right pointing arrow, STR. 12 temporary buffs removed. Dex. 15 plus 1 from makeshift spears, right pointing arrow, Dex. 14 temporary buffs removed. Naruto barely had time to recover as he narrowly dodged a triple bite from the Rat King. He quickly used the substitution jutsu to escape, and seizing the moment, he threw a stink bomb into the room, filling it with a vile stench. While the Rat King was distracted, Naruto transformed himself into a rock to hide. As the Rat King roared in confusion, Naruto prepared his next move. Before facing the Rat King, Naruto had spent considerable time preparing, just like how he prepared for his pranks. Naruto threw a kunai with an explosive seal on the ground and formed a tiger seal with his hands. Fuin. When activated, the explosion emitted a loud sound, drawing the Rat King's attention. Seizing the opportunity, Naruto threw a shuriken, which struck and removed one of the Rat King's eyes. Enraged, the Rat King turned its attention towards the source of the attack. Naruto charged toward the fearsome boss monster, timing his approach to coincide with its fierce triple attack. Just as the Rat King lunged forward, Naruto cleverly executed his substitution jutsu, swapping his position with a log heavily rigged with explosive seals. Boom. The area erupted in a loud explosion. One of the Rat King's 3 heads was obliterated, turned into nothing but a grisly mush. The monster let out a horrendous scream, its body wreathed in a reddish aura of pain and rage. Seizing the moment, Naruto quickly utilized his kunai and shuriken bukijutsu, aimed and launched both weapons at the monster's Achilles tendon. The moment the kunai and shuriken made contact, another explosive seal followed. Boom. The explosions were deafening in the confines of the dungeon. The force of the blast severely damaged the Rat King's tendon, rendering the beast incapable of movement. It stumbled and roared in frustration, now trapped and vulnerable, its remaining heads thrashing wildly as it tried to regain its footing. Naruto remained calm and focused, using the monster as target practice. HP. 200 500ths. HP. 50 500ths. HP. 0 500ths. Finally, the Rat King collapsed to the ground, defeated. Congratulations. You have defeated the dungeon boss, Rat King. 100 Express has been earned. Congratulations. You have successfully cleared the Rat Dungeon. Rewards granted. 100 experience points. Author's note. As explained in this chapter, the mechanism for the transformation jutsu is a simple reflection and refraction of light, not shapeshifting. I know there is a trope in Naruto fanfics where Naruto can shapeshift, but I refrain from going that route for one simple reason: shapeshifting is too overpowered. For example, if Naruto is facing off against an enemy Jonin, why doesn't he just jump into the sky and shapeshift into a whale to kill the enemy? It's too powerful, especially considering Naruto's ability to create 1000 clones. Now, imagine 1000 whales dropping from the sky. Exactly. Second, the substitution jutsu isn't a space-time jutsu. I have read fanfics where it is, and to that, I say why. If substitution jutsu is a space-time jutsu, why even bother learning anything else? In this fanfic, Substitution is just a high-speed movement and dodging technique. When Naruto uses substitution, he prepares a log inside storage scrolls. He activates the jutsu by channeling chakra into his ankles as he moves, leaving behind a puff of smoke. The log is released from the storage seal, substituting the place of the user, while the user moves to a safe location. This jutsu works for about 10 feet and has a flaw: tunnel vision. If the user looks at a certain location to move, an enemy notices it and then just attacks where the user is supposed to appear. It's useful, but not overpowered. 5 years before present day. If you're a Hyuga, then show us your Byakugan. Her eyes stung. She clasped her hands close, eyes darting about. I. She gulped once, and her lips trembled. Her father's voice boomed in her head. You are the heir to the main clan, Hinata. It's high time that you carry yourself as such. Kindness will get you nowhere in this world. But fainter, barely a whisper, her mother's words came to mind. There's enough bloodshed and cruelty in this world, Hinata. Be that smidge of missing kindness, make friends, talk things out, and maybe things will become better. Hinata remembered the hope she felt that day. Looking into the eyes of her assembled classmates, she saw none of what her mother had spoken of. Her stomach clenched, edging closer to her ribcage. I. But if you're not, don't look at us. Nobu stomped to the front of the pack with a mocking grin. Your eyes are really freaky, huh, Byakugan monster. Hinata gasped, but it came out as a whimper. The bully blinked and then snickered. She squeezed her eyes shut, heat exploding across their lids. Her heart hammered in her chest. Never in her life had she expected to hear her clan's prized ability be insulted, and insulted because of her. She wished she were anywhere but here, in the middle of the playground, surrounded by their loud, cruel laughter. Her father's lessons were at the forefront of her mind. Always there, so cold and stern. But Hinata could not adhere to them. No, she never could. Never enough, always falling short of his expectations, their expectations. Her throat trembled with the weight of her fear, 1,000 unspoken words strangled. She opened her eyes to a blurred world, surrounded by her classmates, people she thought she could become friends with. It was why all of this had begun. Foolishly, she had hoped that maybe, she could have fun here. Hinata might not have been very social during the first term, but this was her chance. The invitation to come and play at least allowed some escape from her father's demanding gaze. Unfortunately, it proved to be the same. Maybe worse, because no one there, save for Neji, had spoken to her like this before. The circle inched closer, looming over her. Hinata's head swiveled around. Everywhere she looked, she saw unbridled glee at her suffering. In one step, the bully was in front of her, breaching the gap between her and them. His hot breath washed over her face and she stumbled. She looked up, paralyzed. His form blotted out the sky, casting an intimidating darkness over everything. Looky here, everyone. The Byakugan monster's crying. Hinata closed her eyes. No one would come to help her, and she could not help herself. Their laughter washed over her. Her eyes burned. A fresh wave of hot tears seeped out, trailing burning paths down the sides of her face. Her father was right. She would never be enough. Not for him, not for them, or herself. Enough. The laughter stopped. Everyone turned toward the voice that suddenly rang out. Through her tears, Hinata first saw a blur of orange. As her vision cleared, the details emerged. Spiky blonde hair and an orange and blue jacket with white fur trim around the collar. Beneath that, a black shirt peeked out, and his outfit was completed with dark blue shorts and blue ninja sandals. It was him, the loud boy from class who had been punished on the first day. What was he doing here? Helping her. But why? Nobu clenched his fists. Leave now, you orange clown. That's it, no one insults orange. Naruto screamed, charging toward them. Hinata closed her eyes, knowing this wouldn't end well. She could hear the conflict, the sounds of fists meeting flesh. Peeking through her lashes, she saw Naruto outnumbered, getting beaten by the 3 kids. Yet, he fought back relentlessly. For every 3 kicks he received, he managed to deliver one in return. Dirt clung to his clothes as he was scuffed and scraped in the scuffle, but he didn't give up. Why was he fighting so hard? Hinata's mind was a battleground of conflicting teachings. Her father's cynical words about the absence of kindness in the world clashed violently with her mother's gentle urging to talk things out and make friends. Amid the chaos of these memories, the real world around her echoed with the harsh sounds of conflict, fists striking flesh, grunts of effort, and the harsh laughter of bullies. Yet through the violence, Hinata's eyes locked onto the bright blue eyes of Naruto, a boy who was fighting against the odds. He wasn't just fighting. He was defending someone else, standing up for her when he had nothing to gain. This wasn't the selfish violence her mother despised, it was a selfless act of bravery. I want to be like that, she thought. To have the will to keep fighting, not just for myself, but for others. Stand up and fight. With trembling legs, she tried to rise, her heart pounding so loudly it filled her ears and drowned out the noise of the playground. Today, she decided, she would be brave like the boy before her. Hinata activated her Byakugan. Her veins bulged near her temples, as she adopted the stance of the gentle fist. Every muscle and fiber in her body aligned with her intent as she lunged toward Nobu, the lead bully. But her feet slipped, sending her crashing into the cold snow. The fall was hard, the chill of the snow seeping through her clothes, mixing with the dirt to stain her outfit. Her frustration mounted as she lay there, feeling helpless and humiliated. The bullies laughed mercilessly at the sight. Two freaks in a pod, they jeered as they walked away, their laughter echoing behind them. Hinata stared at the ground, overwhelmed by the mocking laughter still echoing in her ears. Her attempted bravery, her stand, it all seemed foolish now. Why did she even bother? Thank you. The voice broke through her reverie, pulling her gaze upward. Naruto stood before her, bruised and battered, a fresh cut above his eye threatening to bleed, yet his smile was warm and genuine. Why? The word slipped out before Hinata could stop it. Why what? Why thank me? Because you thank someone for helping you. Hinata felt her heart race, the simplicity of his gratitude was unexpected. Thank you, she managed to say, her stutter more pronounced under the weight of her emotions. Naruto waved off her thanks casually. It's the duty of the Hokage to save anyone in trouble. Hokage. Nice to meet you. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage of Konoha. His confidence was palpable, radiating a surety that Hinata found both enviable and inspiring. Before she could introduce herself, a hand clasped her shoulder. Lady Hinata, let's go. Her guard was insistent, his grip firm as he began to pull her away while sending a sharp glare at Naruto. Naruto, unfazed by the guard's hostility, simply waved at her. Watching him, Hinata felt something stir within her, a desire to possess that same resilience and disregard for others' scorn. As they moved away, Hinata felt a sharp sting on her knee, a reminder of her fall. The cold winter air aggravated the scrape, making it painfully evident. She glanced back at Naruto, noticing his cut again and thinking about the pain he was ignoring. That will hurt. Suddenly remembering the unique sensitivity of her clan's eyes to bright light, particularly in winter when sunlight reflected off snow, she impulsively removed her green goggles. The Hyuga were advised to wear goggles in such conditions to protect their sensitive eyes. She tossed the goggles to a surprised Naruto, motioning for him to wear them. As her guard started to protest, Hinata summoned every bit of her courage. If you say anything, I'll let my father know that because of you I got hurt, she declared firmly, pointing to her scraped knee. The guard blanched, his authority wavering. Yes, Lady Hinata. Over the next few years, Hinata tried to gather the courage to speak to Naruto, but she never managed to do it. Sometimes she joked to herself that she had used up all her bravery that day when she threatened her guard. Despite her fears, Hinata still yearned to be Naruto's friend, but every time an opportunity arose, her insecurities would overwhelm her. Then, one day, she noticed Naruto had left his kunai and shuriken bukijutsu scrolls in the classroom, and he hadn't been there for the entire class just before lunch. Seizing what she saw as a golden opportunity, Hinata grabbed the scrolls with the intent of returning them to him. This was her chance to make the first move toward friendship. She started by checking all his usual hangouts, but Naruto was nowhere to be found. Hinata even activated her Byakugan, scanning the area far and wide for any sign of him. To her surprise, she located him in the library, a place she'd never known him to visit. Naruto in the library. It didn't make sense. Nonetheless, she shrugged off her confusion and ran toward the library, scrolls in hand. Today, she decided, she would finally step beyond her fears. Present day. Hyuga clan. Traditional wooden structures with gently curved roofs surrounded the area, their dark wood contrasting with the lighter colored paper sliding doors. Stone paths weaved through meticulously maintained gardens, leading to various parts of the compound. On the training grounds, under the watchful eye of her master, Hinata was practicing the gentle fist. She moved with more vigor than usual. Hinata cast a quick glance at Hikari, one of her trainers. Although her father was her primary instructor, his duties as the clan head often kept him too occupied to train her consistently. As a result, retired ninjas like Hikari stepped in to fill the role of her other master. Is something wrong, Lady Hinata? Hinata hesitated, then asked, Master Hikari, do you know anything about Uzushiogakure? Hikari's expression changed, a hint of surprise in his eyes. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Can you tell me more about it? Hikari shrugged, his voice casual as he spoke. Hinata had finished her sets, and the information wasn't some closely guarded state secret. Uzushiogakure was once one of the great ninja villages. It was our sister village. The alliance between Konoha and Uzushiogakure allowed Konoha to expand its borders diplomatically. Sadly, Uzushiogakure was destroyed, leading to the Third Great Ninja War. Hinata's eyes widened in shock. Why don't we learn this in school if Uzushiogakure played such a significant role in our history? Anger. We don't teach the next generation because it brings anger to our elders. Uzushiogakure is a black dot in Konoha's history. Many blame Uzushiogakure for their losses during the war, the loss of their children, their families. People just want to blame and forget. I was a genin when the Third War broke out. I lost many friends. Like others, I wanted to blame my anger on something, but blaming a destroyed village that once was our ally isn't right. Hinata nodded, absorbing his words with a sad expression. What does Uzushiogakure have to do with the Uzumaki clan? Hikari narrowed his eyes, sensing something more behind her question. Why are you asking about this, Hinata? Startled by his intense gaze, Hinata stammered, I'll get back to training, quickly returning to her practice. Hikari scratched his head, wondering why Hinata was suddenly so interested in a long-forgotten village and clan. Iruka walked into the great Konoha library, his status as a chunin granting him easy access. The library was a vast, impressive building, its high ceilings supported by grand columns. Rows upon rows of bookshelves stretched as far as the eye could see, filled with an endless collection of books. Sunlight streamed through large windows, illuminating the quiet, scholarly atmosphere. Approaching the front desk, Iruka spotted a familiar face among the stacks of books. Shiho, is that you? Shiho looked up, a smile spreading across her face. Oh, Iruka-sensei, long time no see. What brings you here? I just wanted to grab some books. How have you been? Not much, just studying, Shiho replied, adjusting the stack of books beside her. Oh, is this a hobby of yours? Part-time job, actually. I'm trying to get into the Konoha cryptanalysis team, she explained. Well, I'm ashamed I can't help my star student. Come on, sensei, don't flatter me. I was just good in academics, Shiho said modestly. Do you need help finding a specific book? Yeah, is there anything about Uzushiogakure? Shiho paused, quickly browsing through the library's registry. Section Z, Row 7, Column 9. There's only one book about Uzushiogakure. Thank you, Iruka said, heading off in the direction she indicated. Shiho watched him go, her gaze returning to the registry. The location of the book about Uzushiogakure seemed peculiar. It was in the last section of the library, a rarely visited area with old, outdated books that were never maintained because they were simply kept for archival purposes. It was odd, almost as if someone wanted to make it hard to find. Iruka walked for what felt like an eternity to reach Section Z. The deeper he ventured into the library, the more the environment changed. The air grew musty, filled with the smell of mold and old paper. The lighting was poor in this part of the library, leaving much of it shrouded in darkness. Dust motes danced in the few shafts of light that penetrated the gloom. Piles of neglected books lay scattered about, and cobwebs adorned the corners of the shelves and ceiling. Finally reaching his destination, Uruka cautiously navigated through the piles, trying not to disturb the years of accumulated dust. He located the spot where the book about Uzushiogakure was supposed to be. The book he pulled from the shelf was old and tattered. Its cover was faded, with edges frayed and pages yellowed with age. The spine creaked as he opened it, revealing that many of the pages were barely legible, the ink faded and smudged. One page, however, caught his eye. It had a faint image of a swirling crimson symbol, barely visible. Why is this symbol here? He then remembered the back of his own Chunin vest. It bore the same swirling symbol. Uruka had always thought that the symbol represented Konoha's unity, different people swirling into one for the protection of the village. But seeing it here, in a book about Uzushiogakure, made him question everything. Could this symbol be related to Uzushiogakure? The thought that this symbol, which he and many others had worn for years without truly understanding its origin, might have a deeper connection to the long-forgotten village of Uzushiogakure was both intriguing and unsettling. Uruka carefully closed the book. He realized there was much more to learn about the village's history and its connection to Konoha, a history that had been lost or deliberately obscured over time. Naruto woke up to the familiar chime of a system notification. You have slept in your bed. HP and CP are fully restored. His eyes snapped open, and a wide smile spread across his face. The ongoing notifications confirmed that this extraordinary experience wasn't just a dream. Yes. Shut up, came the irritated shouts from neighboring apartments. Unfazed, Naruto turned his attention to the changes he had undergone after clearing the dungeon. Substitution Jutsu. Level 2. Transformation Jutsu. Level 3. Kunai Bukijutsu. Level 4. Shuriken Bukijutsu. Level 4. Class Feature. Scroll Arts. Level 2. Class Feature. Fuinjutsu. Level 3. Naruto grinned. In just a day, he had improved more than he ever thought possible. But the thought that his teachers might have been deliberately sabotaging him weighed heavily on his mind. He knew Fujino was struggling with her own issues, but the idea that everyone else might be involved too seemed off, like there was a bigger piece of the puzzle missing. Should I ask Gigi to help? The third Hokage, his beloved Gigi, was often too swamped to make daily visits. His visits were sporadic, sometimes weekly, sometimes only once a month. Naruto cherished those moments at the Sarutobi clan house or when Gigi stopped by his place. But could he really burden him with this? It's Gramps' job to help, right? He pondered as he went about preparing his breakfast. Naruto decided on his favorite combo, cup ramen and cereal. Not everyone's choice, sure, but he loved it. Alert. World Quest. Quest title. Don't be late. Objective. Arrive at the academy on time. Time limit. 10 minutes. Rewards. 10 experience points. Enhanced reputation with class. Penalty for failure. Action required. Acceptance or declination of quest. It's a reusable quest. Quest. Don't be late. Status. Successfully completed. Rewards granted. 10 experience points, plus 5 reputation with classroom. Naruto burst into the classroom just as the timer of the quest rang, his entrance perfectly timed. He quickly glanced at the system, hoping to see some sort of achievement notification for his last-second arrival. But all he was met with was silence. Damn it, give me an achievement. This outburst startled some of his classmates, who looked at him with wide eyes and confusion. Whispers quickly spread through the room. Did Naruto finally lose it? He just burst in and started talking to himself, another whispered, eyeing Naruto warily. I heard he's been acting weird lately. Maybe he's cracked under the pressure, a third student speculated in a hushed tone. Realizing how odd his behavior must have seemed, Naruto felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him. Despite this, he couldn't help but grin as he soaked in the attention from his classmates. Even though they looked at him like he was a bit of a fool, he didn't mind. To him, attention was attention, and that was all that mattered. Spotting a free seat next to Hinata, he plopped down beside her with his usual exuberance. Ignoring the shocked expression on Hinata's face, which looked like she was about to melt from embarrassment, Naruto just flashed her one of his broad, confident smiles. Hello, Hinata. He knew his new friend wasn't the most comfortable person, so there was no need to overwhelm her with his loudness. He can be calm when he needs to be. Hinata spoke softly, disbelief coloring her tone. You're early 2 days in a row. Naruto's sweat dropped, scratching his head as he grumbled back, is it really that much of a surprise? Hinata nodded, about to say something more, but she was interrupted as Iruka-sensei entered the room. Quiet. Iruka used his big head jutsu, instantly silencing the class. Good. Now I'll take attendance. When he reached Naruto's, he paused and looked up, surprised to see Naruto actually in his seat. Am I drunk? He said out loud, causing snickers to spread through the class. Naruto's face turned red as he retorted, I can come on time, sensei. Naruto, the last time you were on time was 3 years ago. What about yesterday? You missed the pledge of fire yesterday. The what now? Naruto asked, his confusion prompting a series of facepalms around the classroom. Iruka sighed deeply. The pledge of fire is the vow of loyalty to Konoha. It's where you repeat the will of fire that has been passed down since the first Hokage, Sakura chimed in, turning to Sasuke, expecting some reaction, but finding none. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly. Whatever, I'll do the pledge thing. Anyway, sensei, he continued, puffing out his chest a bit, I finally got that saying. The early bird gets the apple. Worm, Naruto, worm, Iruka corrected him, then continued with the attendance. Meanwhile, Naruto leaned over to Hinata. What were you saying earlier? I found some information about Uzushiogakure. What? He exclaimed loudly, unable to contain his surprise, which drew a stern look from Iruka. Naruto, I know you're early, but please don't start in the morning. Sorry, sensei, Naruto whispered back, then turned his attention to Hinata. Tell me everything. Hinata quickly shared what she had found about Uzushiogakure, its role in Konoha's history, the attitude of people towards it, and the fact that it had been destroyed. As Hinata relayed the information, Naruto struggled to process it. He had just discovered he had a family, and now he was learning that it had been destroyed. He pondered how he ended up with blonde hair. Perhaps one of his parents had escaped from Uzushiogakure and married someone in Konoha. Naruto clenched his fists under the desk, a wave of anger washing over him. Is this why people glare at me? Fear me. Because I'm an outsider. Because my clan's village led to the Third Great Ninja War. As Iruka called the class to stand for the pledge, Naruto rose mechanically, his mind buzzing with the realization that perhaps his teachers were targeting him for reasons beyond his control. He stood there, trying to wrap his head around the idea that those he should be able to trust were using such justifications to harm his future. As the class recited in unison, I pledge fidelity to the will of fire of the Hidden Leaf Village, and to the unity for which it stands, one community, indivisible, with love and protection for all its people. Naruto couldn't help but snort at the mention of love. Love? Yeah right, where is my love? His brooding was interrupted when he felt a gentle nudge from Hinata, who offered him a small, encouraging smile. That simple gesture significantly lightened Naruto's heavy heart. Glancing around the room, at the system, at Hinata, at Iruka, and thinking about Chuki, Ayame, his Jiji, and the Sarutobi clan, he realized something profound. I have my own love. So what if the rest of them don't show me any love? I'm done caring about their approval. I've got the system, and I've got folks who care about me. I'm going to be strong enough to protect those who gave me love, and I'll show the world. The Uzumakis aren't to be forgotten. Author note. A few changes from the original series. In the original series, or should I say in the Naruto, the last movie. Context. In the movie Hinata was more scared and didn't do anything about the bullies. Naruto was, for some reason, able to do a mini shadow clone jutsu, I don't know what that was. The main focus of the movie was on that red scarf, which was never pivotal or brought up by any character in the original series, Shippuden, or any of the other movies. Hinata developed a crush on Naruto because he saved her. Anyway, my changes are: 1. Hinata actually stood up. Hinata's insecurities and her admiration for Naruto's bravery, in my opinion, have more depth this way because Naruto was able to inspire Hinata to stand up for herself. 2. Hinata gave Naruto his green goggles. Those goggles were a big part of Naruto's design in the first few chapters. I think they add more to their relationship because Naruto continued to wear them throughout the years, not some random scarf that was never a thing. Also, those green goggles add more to the world building by introducing how young dojutsu users take precautions during childhood against things like sunlight reflecting off snow. 3. Hinata didn't go into love mode just because Naruto saved her. It's more along the lines of a crush made out of admiration. I know there is the whole stalking thing. I changed it to where Hinata tried to become friends but didn't muster up the courage for it. 4. The will of fire. The idealistic ideology of Hashirama Senju, aims for peace and love and all that. We heard it all the time in the anime, but my question was how it is instilled into the younger generation. Anyway, I based the instilling of the idea of the will of fire on a pledge that students recite daily after attendance. I didn't add any critique of the will of fire, which, all things considered, is fairly easy to do since the ideology has created a lot of monsters like Orochimaru, Danzo, etc. It's way too idealistic and has its fair share of flaws, but for the simple reason, it felt out of character for Naruto to suddenly go edgy and say how the will of fire is this and that and blah 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 even if Naruto is technically finding out the enemies around him. I personally didn't want to go through the edgy route for Naruto. Rather, I think it was better for Naruto to see the love that the few people give him and use that as motivation to get stronger, with the system being his guide and being part of the Uzumaki clan his identity, rather than the identity of an orphan who wants to prove everyone wrong and be Hokage. Give your thoughts on this development of Naruto's character alongside how the ideology of the will of fire is propagandized into the minds of young children. Love and protection for all, yet ostracize people like Naruto, Tsukumo, etc.